If it starts to rain, will you send Connor up here to fetch my camera for me? Because it's going to be doing a time lapse. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Connor has not responded, but that's because he is slightly non-responsive most of the time. He hasn't done anything more Philistinic today. We went for a run, which was quite pleasant. Connor's an excellent running partner, as is Batman, because neither of them say anything when you run, which is great. I don't find running to be a place for conversation. Do you, Batman? Well, Batman, you don't find life to be a place for conversation, but still. Yes, except when it messes with your chi. Let's not forget that. This is going to drive me insane. Sorry everybody, I keep having to stop because I can't get my camera into the tripod without creating a stink. There we go, it's in. Sorry, so far from my heart. This is a lamentable song that has got stuck in my head. I'm not sure why. I do wish it would go away. I don't ever want to hear it again. Right, we're going to stop up here quickly. Set up our time lapsey. Probably with that dead tree in the background, in the front foreground-ish. No, not that one. I think it might have to be that big one. Right, we have 20 seconds, everybody. We will see you later. Anon, adieu, lovely day. Enjoy the rest of the show. Well done.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The wind is howling and the clouds are rolling in. It looks as though at some point we might even have a thunderstorm. Either way, it makes for a very, very atmospheric afternoon to be out in the bush. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. Very good afternoon to all of you and welcome on the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie and this afternoon Senzo is on camera with me and we are coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is part of the Sabi Sands and as a whole part of the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa, so right up in the top northeastern corner. And a very warm welcome to Elton Hall, Hampton Oaks and Kingston Elementary Schools. I hope you kids are all super excited to be out on safari. We've got all sorts of exciting things planned for you, but as you know, we can't always plan exactly what's going to happen. We might find a leopard, because that's what I want to do this afternoon. We might find an elephant, we might find a lion. I just don't know what exactly we're going to see. Either way, you can be certain it's exciting. Now, for our regular viewers, new and established, if you could please send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. We'd be happy to hear from you. Rebecca's just said something to me. I have no idea what she said. I'm sorry, Rebecca. What did you say? Aha. He's just letting me know that the other two people who are going to be taking you out on safari are also excited and you'll be seeing them in the not too distant future. So, I said that the wind is howling. And there are some, let me actually show you, there's some serious storm clouds building. I wonder if we're going to get some rain. Let me stop here so I can show you. Now, over there to the east is the Kruger National Park itself. And you can see the dark and ominous clouds are building up over there. It's still hot out here, though. Here in South Africa, despite the fact that it is in fact going into our winter, which is our dry season, it is 30 degrees centigrade this afternoon, which is 86 in Fahrenheit. So it's nice and warm, even though it does look as though it wants to storm. And you can see the trees, leaves blowing in the wind. So it's a very... what's the word? Yes, I think atmospheric is probably the best way to describe this afternoon. Now, often what you'll find is that animals in this sort of weather are a little bit nervous. If you think about it, for animals, it's not just about seeing predators. They've got to be listening constantly, they're smelling constantly, and that means that they have to be aware of what's going on around them. And if the wind is blowing, they can't smell and they can't hear, so it makes them a little bit scared. But a good place to start is the nearby waterholes. We've already checked this one. I'm going to go off in search of others. In the meantime, I said that there were other people excited to say hello, and James is the first of them.
Hello everybody, welcome to this little leg of the afternoon safari for you at Hampton Oaks, Kingston Elementary and Alton Hall. Wonderful to have you with us. Now, I'm going to show you something quite delicious to smell. I know that you came here to see lions and leopards and elephants and things, but... you'd be missing out on so much if that's all you saw in Africa. This is a beautiful, beautiful plant called wild aniseed. And you know what licorice tastes like. You've all eaten licorice before. Well, that's wild licorice, basically, and it smells absolutely delicious. Half the reason I work out here is because of the smells of the bush. So here I will show you exactly what it looks like. Let me just pick a piece. Oh, that's what the plant looks like there. Very delicious indeed. Not very good to eat, but it smells pretty nice. Now, my name is James. You've met Jamie, of course, not to be confused. Jamie's a girl, I'm a boy, and so please ask us any questions you like during the course of the little drive that we're going to be going on. Then the second plant I want to show you is something called poison apple. There we are. And poison apple has a plant that you eat quite regularly that's quite closely related to this plant. And that plant is a tomato. Can you believe it? A tomato is very closely related to that plant, the poison apple, and those purple flowers will eventually turn into a rare or a yellow fruit that looks like a small tomato, but you can't eat it. It's called a poison apple for a reason. It won't kill you if you eat it, but it'll make you quite sick. Alrighty, let's go and see what we can find. Our plan this afternoon is to head towards the north and then towards the east, towards where the sun came from this morning, and we're going to have a look and see if we can't pick up on some tracks of a leopard or some lions, or maybe, because it's quite a hot day, at 86 degrees Fahrenheit, we might be able to find some elephants having a drink. So that's the idea this afternoon. Here we go. I hope you're all having a lovely day at school, and of course as it starts to get windier here in the morning, start to get a bit darker and they get a little bit colder, remember of course, or I remember of course, that you guys are going into your summertime, so the opposite is happening with you. Your mornings are getting a little bit brighter, you're having to wear fewer layers to school. And that's of course because we're in the southern hemisphere, in Africa, the southern parts of Africa, and well, it's just very nice for you to be going into summer, and we don't mind going into winter because it's very hot here in the summertime, and actually the winter's quite pleasant. There's some beautiful birds on the ground. Ooh, there we go. That's called a crowned lapwing. There we go, both of them have landed there. Mr. and Mrs. Crowned Lapwing. Quite nice to see them. And Mr. and Mrs. Crowned Lapwing are some common birds that we get here. We get lots of them, and just about every single area that doesn't have trees in it. So every clearing, you will find a pair of crowned lapwings. and they're looking for insects on the ground and enjoying eating things. By insects I mean things like grasshoppers and what else? Caterpillars, beetles, that sort of thing. Now, Daniel, you're quite a clever little fellow. You're saying, well, obviously I told you that those plants that I showed you were not very good for humans to eat, but you want to know if the animals can eat them. Well, you know, there's some animals that could eat them, but there's some animals that wouldn't eat them. And I think, you know, lots of things out here are bright orange or yellow or red color because they're not very good for animals to eat. It's like a warning. It tells them that you mustn't eat this because it's poisonous. And there are 3 or 4 plants that I can think of that are like that. But for all of those plants, there are 1 or 2 creatures that can eat them. And I'm thinking specifically of something called a wild cucumber. You all know what a cucumber is, that giant, tasteless sort of vegetable that your mum and dad put in salads, no doubt. Well, that has a relation out here in Africa, which is a bright yellow ball with spikes on it. Now, the spikes aren't very hard, they're quite soft, but it's a warning that animals should not try and eat it because they're poisonous. But there's one animal, the tree squirrel out here, and is very happy to eat it. And I think you'll find the same with the poison apple. There'll be a few animals that are able to cope or are able to eat poisons that for us might be quite dangerous. That's a very good question. All right, let's carry on. No, we can stay there. Josiah, that's a very good question. You say, do those crowned lapwings live in a nest? They don't, you know. They live on the ground. They don't ever live in a nest. And even when they lay eggs, all they do is dig a very sort of shallow hole in the ground. They lay their eggs in there, and their eggs, of course, look like the soil around them. And so they're very difficult to find. And so even though if you were to look at the ground, you might just be able to spot them. Most of the animals out here, the animals that eat eggs, would walk straight past them and not see them. And so they don't actually ever live in a nest. And when they're born, they can run almost immediately, the little chicks. They're very cleverly camouflaged. Now, camouflage is a very important way not to get eaten out here. If you want to avoid being eaten by your predators, well, then it's a very good idea to be hidden, to be camouflaged. Alrighty. We're going to move on, head down towards the waterholes, see what we can find, and while we do that, let's find out how Jamie's search at the waterholes is going.
Well, we're searching very, very carefully because this is where the leopard was, or very close to where the leopard was this morning. So I'm checking in all of the shady spots in places where leopards like to hide. And they like to hide either in a tree like this or possibly around the termite mound over here that is off to the left of us. And you can see there's some nice shady patches. And imagine if you're a leopard, and a leopard is not a huge animal. It's not a super tall animal. So being up in a tree or up on a termite mound means that they can keep an eye on whatever's going on around them. That's the sort of places that we like to search when we look for leopards. And that's what we're going to do now. I'm checking all of the big trees in the area. I'm also checking the ground for footprints in the sand. And welcome to Julia. I hear that James has been telling you a little bit about the seasons out here. And you want to know, Julia wants to know whether or not we get 4 seasons out here. Julia, not really. Obviously, technically, we get the spring and the summer and the winter and the autumn, but actually, really, we only have 2 seasons. Our hot season, which is our wet season, and that is over our summer, so when you guys have your winter. And then we have our dry season, which is during our winter months, so when you are going into summer. So if it does rain, it'll be the last rain that we see for a little bit, because after that, the rain goes away for a while, and we just have to wait for the next set. Everybody hold your breath, hold your noses, close your eyes, there's dust coming. It's just another vehicle coming past. Just hold on one moment. How's it? How are you?
Fine, and you?
Good, thank you.
Are you alright?
We're good, thank you.
Fine.
Awesome. Okay, cheers. Enjoy. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. Everybody's so friendly out here. Very friendly. Okay. Come on, Shadow. Whoop. All the people want to come past at the moment. Right, is that everybody? Are we done? Yes. Now, speaking about weather, Andrew, you want to know how much rain does Djuma usually get? Around about 500 mils on average per year. However, it has been last year was a drought, and it was a really, really bad drought. We had hardly any rain, and it was really sad because the animals weren't getting enough to eat. The grass wasn't green enough, the trees just didn't have enough leaves, and things like buffalo were very ill. Luckily, we've had a little bit more rain this particular year, and hopefully it's going to be enough for the animals to survive the dry season. I'm going to be looking for this leopard, and I know that is what Brent wants to do as well. So let's head over to him so that he can tell you what he has planned.
Welcome to the bushwalk, and great to have all the schools on board with us. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I've got my good friend VM on camera, and we hot on the tracks of a female leopard and cub, and we can see her track here. So there we go. This is her back pad. So there's 3 little lobes like that, and then her big toes there. Now, I found them near here this morning. So it's a female leopard who's about 11 years old, and she's got a 16-week-old cub. Her name is Shadow, and she's one of the hardest leopards to find in this area. And I'm hoping that she's made a kill somewhere close by. So we're going to try follow these footprints till we get to where the kill is. Hopefully she's still there. Hopefully it's something big, and I'm very excited. Now, Isabel's wondering, why do leopards have spots? Isabel, it's so they can disappear into the bush. It breaks out their outline. It gives them incredible camouflage. So they are able to sneak up onto the animals they want to grab, or they can even hide from other animals like lions. Okay, so the tracks are keeping going here. We want to look carefully. Here we go. Here she goes. So we're following her footprints. There she goes. There she goes. There she goes. Okay. Now, you might see Herbie around. Herbie is also out with us, and he's making sure. False alarm. He's also making sure we're safe, and he's helping with the tracking. Now, we're going to sneak along, trying to see where this female leopard's gone. While we do that, let's go to James, who's got some very funny-looking animals.
I don't think I'm a very funny-looking animal at all, but I suppose you might think that these wildebeest are quite funny-looking animals. There is a herd of blue wildebeest here, and they like to eat grass, and they're sitting here in an open area which doesn't have lots of trees in it, because they like to see if something's going to come and eat them. And Ian, you say, what is a wildebeest? Well, I mean, it's difficult to answer. There it is. That is a wildebeest. It's a kind of antelope, which is a kind of, I suppose you could, the most obvious answer would be to say it's a little bit like a deer that you get in the United States. It's not very closely related, but it is a little bit like a deer and a little bit like a cow at the same time. And we like them very much, of course, because they make us remember Africa. They look just so very African, and they're one of the most famous animals in all of Africa. The blue wildebeest. You know, all the lions out here, they quite like to eat them because they're just the right size. They're not too big like a buffalo. They're not too small like an impala. They're just the right size for a pride of lions to try and eat. Now, there's something else going on around here which I haven't been able to show you, but I'm going to try and do that now. Not only are there wildebeest here, but there's something that looks a little bit like you and me. Let's go down here. What do you think it is that looks like you and me? Sorry, Alex, I missed your question. I'm going to ask for it again. Oh, Alex, you say, how big can a wildebeest get? Well, a wildebeest is about the size of a small cow, and I'll show you, once we've stopped, I'll show you how tall they are, but they weigh about, in pounds, a big bull probably weighs about 600 pounds, so they're very big animals, 600 pounds. That is, I mean, if everybody in your class weighs roughly, let's say, somewhere around 15 kilograms, which is about, call it 30 pounds, we'll say that it would probably weigh about the same as 20 members of your class. So 20 members of your class standing together, sitting together, that would be about the same mass. There are those funny little animals. Unfortunately, they're not very close by anymore. Can you see them, Craig? They're just down through there, running away. There we go. Those are baboons. You see why I say they look like you and me? Well, they look just a little bit more like human beings than the wildebeest do, don't they? They can't walk on two legs. They have to walk on four legs. But there they are. And then we've also... Oh, there's a big one. That's a big bull. Not a big bull. A big male. And a little one. That's quite fun, isn't it? And they're looking for food, they're looking for things to eat. They might eat insects, they might eat fruits, they might sometimes eat meat, but normally it's insects and fruits and that sort of thing. And there are not a huge number of fruits anymore around here because we're very late into the summer. And then there's something quite special there. Look at that. Look at that. That's a very special bird called a sandpiper. A sandpiper. Now, Miss Mayer, you are wondering not what the sandpiper eats, and it's little snails, in case you are wondering. You want to know what a wildebeest eats. Well, as I said earlier on, I said that wildebeest are largely grass eaters. They eat grass. So if you can imagine a nice green lawn, well, that's probably what that wildebeest would eat if it could. Now, they're just coming down towards the water here. They can be a little bit nervous. So let's see if they come down and have something to drink. Jay, you're wondering why a wildebeest has got stripes. Well, they've got stripes for the same reason that a soldier wears a shirt that looks like it's got bushes on it. It's for camouflage. They try, and when they move through the thick grass, I know they don't look camouflage now, but at night time, when these wildebeest move through the bushes, what happens is that they look quite dim, and it's difficult to make out where the head of the wildebeest is and where the back is. And that makes it difficult for their predators, which are lions, to try and catch them. So that's why we think they have stripes. Oh, and there's another special bird over here, just to the right-hand side. That's a special bird there. Can you see it, Craig? It's on the log. There we go. It's a special bird called an oxpecker. And an oxpecker, still there, just to the left. There you go. An oxpecker likes to sit on the wildebeest and eat off the ticks. Now, do you know what a tick is? A tick is a kind of a spider almost, a little bit like a spider, but what it does is it sucks the blood out of animals. Isn't that disgusting? And you know what the oxpecker does? The oxpecker eats the tick. Yuck. So you can be very happy that you aren't an oxpecker, because if you were, you'd have to eat ticks. And those ticks are the things that have sucked blood out of these beautiful animals. Look, they're coming down to drink. Megan, you're wondering if a wildebeest is the same family as an elephant. Megan, I'm going to ask you to look very carefully at that wildebeest and tell me if you think it looks anything like an elephant. Does it look like an elephant, or does it look more like a cow? What do you think, Megan? More like an elephant or more like a cow? And I think because I'm sure you're shouting now at your teacher, "It looks like a cow! It looks like a cow!" What you'll be able to know, of course, then, is that it's much more closely related to a cow than it is to an elephant. It doesn't look like an elephant. An elephant's got a huge, long nose. Hello, Charlie. You say, are wildebeest only black, or do they come in other colours? Charlie, sometimes they're pink, sometimes they're green, sometimes they're blue, sometimes they're even orange. Did you know that? Charlie, I'm joking. They are always normally blackish, but there is a slight differentiation between different wildebeest in different areas. So the ones here, you can see they're almost totally black from top to toe. And then sometimes in East Africa, or in a place called Kenya, which is not too far from here, they've got a white beard. So you can see, and a white mane. So you see that long hair on the back of the neck there? Well, that long hair on the back of the neck in the wildebeest of Eastern Africa, that's white. And their tails are white. So that's a difference. But otherwise, the body is a very similar color. Even though they're called the blue wildebeest, these ones are called a blue wildebeest, it's a silly name really, because they're not blue at all. Now Holly and Eli, you ask a very good question. You say, why do wildebeest have curved horns? Do they fight with them? They do a little bit. The bulls, the males, can sometimes fight with them. They fight each other. But we think the main reason that they have horns is to defend themselves when they're attacked by lions. So sometimes they have to turn around and face the lions. And those hooked horns are quite good, because what they do is they allow the wildebeest, rather than to just stick them at they can move whatever they want out of the way. So if something is running towards them and is going to try and grab them, then they will use those horns to hook them and then pull them out of the way. And that's why we think they've got those curved horns. Alrighty, we're going to move on from here, see if we can find some elephants which are not related to wildebeest. Let's head across to Jamie and see what she's managed to find.
Oh dear. Just as you came across to me, as James sent you across to me, I've acquired a very large stick that appears to want to come on the game drive with us. It's stuck underneath the car. There we go. I was about to drive down the road making lots of dust. There we go. That's the stick that wanted to come with us. There we go. But it's not, unfortunately. Unwanted passengers are not allowed. Right, so, moving on from our stick. Lena, you want to know how many types of big cats do we have out here? Because, of course, we're searching for one of the most elusive of them. So, Lena, we have 3 big cats that we get out here in South Africa. One is a cheetah, which is very tall, very thin, and obviously very, very fast. Then we get the leopard, which is... a lot of people get confused with a cheetah in the beginning because it also has spots, but its spots are kind of more like rosettes on its body. And a leopard is a much stronger, stockier animal that's very, very good at climbing trees, and that's the cat that we're looking for. And then, of course, there's also the lions that we see out here. And we get those 3 big cats, and they are part of the top 5 dominant predators out here. And that's the lion, the wild dog, the spotted hyena, the leopard, and the cheetah. But we also get some smaller cats as well. We get some sort of medium-sized cats, bigger than a house cat, probably about this tall at the shoulder, so about a foot. And we get 2 different types of those. We get a serval and a caracal, and they're both very, very beautiful cats. And then we also get an African wildcat. Now, an African wildcat is basically the ancestor of all of the domestic cats around the world. And it's a beautiful little cat. It's a separate species. It's not a domestic cat, and it's not a stray cat. It's a completely different species, but it looks a lot like it could be somebody's pet cat. So it's not just the big cats that we get out here. We've actually got such a variety of feline predators. And of course, we're searching for Shadow. Brent and myself working as a team with Herbie and our wonderful cameraman to see if we can't find Shadow. So what I'm doing is, while Brent is walking there, I'm doing a big circle around him to see if I can see any of her footprints coming out in the sand. I just want to check something. Haha! I do have it here. Okay, I will at some point show you a picture of the various cat species that we get out here, but I'm sure you'd like to know how the search for an actual cat is going, so let's go back on foot with Brent.
Well, we're still on the tracks. Now, you got to be very brave when you're following leopard tracks in an area like this. We know she's got a little cub as well. So her last tracks go just behind where we are here, and they go right into this really thick bush. So we're going very, very slowly, and we're trying. We don't want to surprise her from too close. So literally we take 2 steps. 1, 2, and then you stop. Use your ears, use your nose, use your eyes, and you smell and you look very carefully at what's going on in front here. So the ground's quite hard, so we've also got to go very, very slowly to see the tracks. Now, I found this leopard in this exact spot before when she killed an impala. And a duiker. She's had 2 kills that I know about here. And the one time when I was walking, looking for her here, she gave me a little charge. She went... The wind's quite strong, so when the wind gusts like this, when you're tracking big cats on foot, you just have to wait a little bit till it goes down a little bit. As you can see, it's very, very thick in here. We're going very, very slowly. Now, leopards don't always put their kills in a tree. Sometimes they'll stash it in a thicket just like this. Okay, I need to concentrate and go very slowly. I'm going to look if there's any footprints in the soft sand up ahead of us here. So while we'll do that, let's go back to Jamie, who's got some pictures to show you.
So while Brent creeps through the vegetation, I've stopped for a moment because I promised you I'd show you the pictures of those cats. But while I look for them in my book, don't you think it would be nice to have a look at a rainbow this afternoon? I think it would be nice to have a look at a rainbow, and luckily for us, the skies are providing just that. There's a beautiful rainbow stretching across the sky. Right, what were we talking about? There we go. Okay, let's go through all of our cat species. So, you wanted to know about the big cats. Let's start with the big cats. This is a cheetah, and it is quite a long and thin animal. If we have a look at that, you can see it's got solid spots, and it has tear marks along its face and near its eyes. And it's a very, very pretty cat, and one of the cats that we actually don't see all that often. And now, if I turn the page, let me have a look-see. There we go. We've actually got a really nice comparison of the size of the different cats. So at the top, a leopard, and then the cheetah. See what I mean about them being quite tall and thin? And then below that, there is a lion. And a very good question coming through from Charlie. Charlie would like to know if leopards and cheetah are related. They are related in that they are part of the same family. They're both cats. They both belong to the Felidae family. However, there is a very, very important difference, and they actually belong to completely separate genuses. So what that means is that there's something in their biology that sets them apart from each other. And one of the big things is that cheetah, unlike a leopard or a lion, cheetah can't roar. They can purr and they can chirp, but they can't roar, whereas a leopard and a lion have got a very special loose bone in their voice box. If you all tap here, can you feel here? Do you feel that bone up against your Adam's apple? Well, in leopards and lions, it's very loose, so it can expand, and that makes that amazing roaring sound. And leopards and cheetahs can't do that. They also can't retract their claws. So if those of you with pet cats, you know how your cat's claws stay in unless they want to scratch you or something like that. Cheetah can't actually do that. They've only got semi-retractable claws, which means that they stick out of the cheetah's foot. And you can see them, and you can see them in the footstep as well. Let's turn one more page. While I look for... here we go. There we go. So there's a picture of a caracal. Let me just finish with my pictures, and then, Jordan, I'll get to your question. Here we go. We've got a picture of a caracal. So a medium-sized cat. Isn't it beautiful? With the tufts of hair at the top of its ears. And then, one last one to show you. Well, two actually. There's the African wildcat. Remember how I said it looks like your domestic cat at home? That is an African wildcat. And then one more, which will be... we don't get those here, so we won't chat too much about them. A serval. There we go. A serval kind of looks like a micro cheetah. These are animals that are very, very good at hiding away, and that's why a lot of them have these spotted coats, because it actually helps with camouflage. Now, speaking of camouflage, obviously the cats want to camouflage themselves to hide away from prey and to ambush their prey. But Jordan, you want to know, would a leopard play dead in order to avoid being attacked by a predator? Probably not, no. Generally speaking, the things that play dead are the slightly slower animals, things like snakes and lizards and so on. And they play dead so that they don't have to, or other things won't be inspired to attack them. A leopard, if it's threatened, will run, because leopards are very, very, very fast. So what they'll do is they'll run up a tree, or else they'll growl and they'll snarl. And though you want to know if leopards will fight with each other, they do fight. They can fight with each other. Usually, so leopards, males and females, are territorial, but not with each other. And what I mean by that is a female will have a territory and she'll keep females out of her territory. A male will have a territory and he'll keep males out of his territory. But he doesn't mind if there's females in it. And they always are. So they do fight to defend their territories. A lot of the time, remember that nothing out here really wants to risk fighting. So they don't want to be injured in any way. They don't want to be hurt, because that might mean that they can't hunt and they can't survive. So a lot of the time, a fight is decided by who gives the biggest, loudest growl and who presents the best attitude to the opponent, rather than actually physically trying to fight with them. I just have to show you something, and unfortunately the sun's just disappeared. Now, sadly, I already know where these tracks go, and they go outside of the place where we can go. But I wanted to show you how big a lion track is, because we've spoken about leopard tracks, and perhaps Brent will show you one if he finds one. But I want to show you a lion track. I've already tracked these tracks out this morning, so I know that they're not around here. But it does give me a nice opportunity to show you. Now the sun's disappeared. Come back, sun. I can't show tracks without you. So, believe it or not, this footprint over here in the sand, this is a male lion track. And just to give you a perspective, I'm going to have to trace the outline for you just to show you. These are the toes over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the back of the foot over here. 1, 2, 3 lobes at the back. So that's basically the equivalent of the lion's heel. And just look at how large it is. It's bigger than my hand. It's the size of about a man's hand. And this lion walked all the way down this road last night. So there you go. That gives you a sense of perspective as to just how massive the paw of a lion is. I would try and follow them, but unfortunately I already know where they go. And there are certain places on this reserve where we can't go. And that's where they are, very sadly. But perhaps tonight they'll come back to us. Okay, let us continue on. We're searching for leopards, not lions. Now, you'll have seen in that track that there's no sign of the lion's claws. And I spoke about the fact that cheetah can't retract their claws. But Reed, you want to know why are leopards and lions and cats able to retract their claws? What is the purpose? And the reason behind it is because they need those claws to hunt and to fight with each other and to climb trees. And if they were out, I don't know how many of you have dogs. Hands up if you have a dog at home, a pet dog. Have you seen how blunt their claws get if they walk around a lot? If you take them on lots of walks outside, or if they play around in a garden, you'll actually see that the claws have got quite blunt. So that would happen if a lion or a leopard couldn't contract their claws and bring it in. Those claws would get blunt and they wouldn't be able to use them as well. So what they do is they have very strong sheaths around the claw. So basically like a capsule or a cover that protects the claw. And then when it comes time to hunt, when they need to use that or to climb a tree, then the muscles contract and the claws come out of the sheath. And you'll often see leopards and lions doing this up against trees, or stretching out their claws and pulling them back in and then licking them. And that's to make sure that they stay clean and sharp and free of any kind of debris that might mean that they get stuck or that they get blunt. So they need to use those claws. Because imagine trying to climb a tree like this, which is a perfect leopard tree, without claws. It'd be very difficult. We could do it because we've got hands. And we've got another question about leopards sleeping in trees. Bo? Sorry, I'm not quite sure. Bo! Okay, Bo, you want to know if leopards sleep in trees. Sorry, Bo, sometimes I can't hear so well. Bo, they do. Leopards do sleep in trees, not all the time. I would say I see more leopards sleeping on the ground than I do in trees, but they do quite happily sleep in a tree. And they've got favorite types of trees as well. There are certain trees that leopards like to climb more than others and like to sleep in more than others. And that makes sense because some species of trees are just more comfortable to sleep in. And it's amazing how they're able to sleep without falling out. They never ever really fall out of trees. They can, but it doesn't often happen. And most of the time what they'll do is they'll lie with their feet on either side of the branches. I'm sure that wherever those male lions are, that we saw their footprints of, they are fast asleep somewhere. And Victor, you want to know how much do lions sleep? Lots. Or cats sleep. Lots and lots. So of all of them, the lion probably sleeps the most, sometimes up to 20, even 22 hours in a day. If they've got a nice full belly and a meal next to them, they're not going to be too bothered about doing anything. So they can sleep for a very, very long time. But when they do move, they can cover miles and miles and miles in just a few hours. Leopards probably sleep a little bit less, but they can also, if they've got a nice full belly and a kill with them, they can also sleep for up to 20 hours a day. But it's usually a little bit less than that. Particularly females, like the one that we're searching for. Females, Karula and Shadow, they've both got cubs to feed. And yes, indeed, Giselle, all of the cats that I've spoken about, they all eat meat. Each and every single one of them eats meat. They have to eat meat. That is the only diet that they can have. It's what makes them obligate carnivores. In other words, they have to eat meat. They can't not. Just like your dogs and cats at home, they have to have specially formulated food. You can't just feed them on vegetables. So yes, cats eat meat, lions eat meat. And speaking of diets, Eli, you want to know if lions will eat all animals, or is it just certain animals? All animals. A lion will eat anything that it can come across. However, sometimes it's not worth chasing something really small. Like a lion could catch a scrub hare, a tiny little rabbit-like thing, a hare, but why would he want to? It's a waste of energy because he's not getting much of a snack. It's like having one Smartie or something like that, one M&M. So usually lions will go for bigger animals, something like a buffalo or a wildebeest or a giraffe even, and sometimes even things like hippopotamus and elephants. If there's enough lions, and remember, lions work together as a team to kill something, and that's great because it means that you've got lots of strength and advantage of numbers, but it also means that you have to share your food. So it makes more sense for the lions to try and catch something bigger. So they don't necessarily, they could eat any animal out here, but it's usually something large. Okay, I have not seen any footprints coming out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave bushwalk, because the last thing I want to do is have vehicle and the people on foot with a leopard, because then there's a good chance that we could actually scare it away. So I'm going to leave and move away a little bit, and I will continue to search a little bit further afield. And speaking of the search for the leopard on foot, let's go back and sneak about with Brent.
We're still sneaking about, but we're in an area that's a little bit more open now. So the last tracks have come out of those thickets and they're heading towards that very ominous sky. So we're just going to go very slowly here. I think she might have snuck behind us again. I just want to check. There's a bit of open soil up there. I want to see if I can see any of her footprints. I'm also checking all the trees around in case she's got a kill up in a tree. And because she's got a young cubs often like to lie and sleep in trees and fiddle about. But she's proving to be quite difficult. She is one of the hardest leopards we have to track. But if we find no tracks here, I'm going to play a quick game with you. So I'm just looking for the slightest mark in the sand, and the sand here is very hard. So no sign of any tracks here. So Aurelia is wondering what happens when a big cat hurts its claw. Can they still hunt? Aurelia, indeed they can. I'm just going to go fetch something quickly. They can hunt as long as they don't lose too many claws. Now this is impala poop. There we go. And there's a game that's played in Africa. There's actually even a world championship. It's called the Bok Drol Spoeg Competitie, which translates to the impala poo spitting competition. And the world record is around 20 feet. I don't think I can do 20 feet. Vim, how far do you think I can spit? 2 feet. Vim says I can only do 2 feet. So what you do, you need to roll your tongue like this. So you've got a cannon for your impala poo, and you put the impala poo on your tongue, and you roll it, and you go. That wasn't too bad. More than 2 feet at least. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe about 14 feet. So not too bad. Now, can you believe a whole bunch of people get together and have a world championship of impala poo spitting? Now, what we're looking at here, where I grabbed the impala poo from, is called a midden. So an impala midden is made by one of the rams, and what he's done is he's defecated here. He's marked his territory, that this is his spot. That's what he's done. So there we go, an impala midden. Okay, well, looks like we've got someone coming to join us.
This has asked me to come and show you how it's done.
Oh, Rebecca's being cheeky. Oh, the impalas? Oh, I thought you were talking about the tracking. Oh, yeah, apparently we're having a competition.
Having a competition.
A competition, an impala poo spitting competition.
I'm very bad at this.
So there's the line. Oh, there's a thorn in my shoe. There's the line.
Okay, that's
Oh,
fine.
ow, ow, thorn, bad thorn.
Oh dear.
No. Are you going to speak up for my...
I will shout in Brent's general direction.
Oh, where did that thorn go? Okay, I think I got rid of it.
You got rid of
Okay, off you go, ladies first.
Okay. I'm so bad at this. I'm really bad at this.
Oh, go stand next to your impala poo.
Oh, that is a pile.
Okay, well, it's more or less there. Okay, let's see. Oh, let's see if I can hit Jamie. Who thinks I can hit Jamie?
I don't think you can hit Jamie.
Oh, that was close.
Very close.
Oh,
Not.
no, the wind, the wind.
That one was on target as well.
Now I've got to compensate for the wind, get a curve on. I went the other way. Okay, one more and then I'm going to stop spitting poo at Jamie. Oh, there's a big one. There's a big one. Oof, here comes the wind.
There comes the storm.
Yeah! Did I hit you?
No, it flew away.
Did I hit you, Vim? Oh, I hit the cameraman. Oh dear. Well, at least I hit someone. Oh, yeah. Bye. We're going to go see what Herbie's found. So our plan is if these tracks, because we've got tracks coming out of here that looks like when she went to go fetch the cub. So we might try backtrack her tracks because we think she's got a kill somewhere in this area. And so we'll let Jamie wander off. Now, of course, I'm sure you're a bit worried why I put poo in my mouth, but don't worry. Basically, all it is grass. So it's very finely digested grass, and the herbivores don't have any parasites that can affect human beings. You would never do that with lion dung or leopard dung. It's very smelly, and it's got lots of nasty chojos like flukes and tapeworms, but that's only in lion poo. Hampton Oaks thinks it's gross. Well, maybe you guys are just not tough enough, because out here in the bush we spit poo, we walk for miles, and hopefully we don't get flattened. Wow, this is coming in quickly. Sorry, this is suddenly the weather's just changed. I can actually smell rain. Oh, well spotted, Vildy. There's a batelier soaring on the gusting winds. That came in very quickly. Now, we've got to be more careful with weather like this. We're probably not going to walk into that really thick area like we were, because when the wind's blowing like this, we can't hear nearly as well. So it can be a little bit dangerous. So I think we're probably going to try backtrack these tracks now. Let's go see if I can find where they start. Should be just around here somewhere. Okay, well, I'm so sorry guys, we weren't able to find you a leopard today, but maybe next time we're gonna go keep trying to find this leopard. Hopefully we find it before the storm arrives. So from all of us here at Safari Live, a very big goodbye to all of our wonderful schools watching out there. Doodles!
Well, that was fun and a little bit silly. And so the sunset drive continues. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Senzo is on camera with me, probably wondering what on earth these crazy people are doing, spitting impala dung at each other. He didn't hit me though. 10 out of 10 for distance, 5 out of 10 for accuracy. Well, on one of these quiet afternoons, keeping the kids entertained is a priority, and it was fun. I knew I was never going to beat Brent at that game. He's very, very good at it. So I'm slowly but surely heading towards home, The storm has arrived all of a sudden and it feels quite ominous. There's a bit of lightning, there's a bit of thunder, the wind is gusting. I can't see any rain, but it smells like rain. So I'm just making sure that I'm relatively close in case we need to bolt back towards home. Hopefully we don't need to, but there's a possibility. James is having problems with recalcitrant Wendy, so he hasn't disappeared. He's just on his way home to collect one of the other vehicles. I smell rain. I wonder. Sorry, I'm still listening to the debate about what Shadow's got up to. Yeah. Tax and I have just picked up on the same set of tracks from Shadow going across south towards Hoffman's. I'm not 100% sure. I think she's crossed south, unfortunately. Oof. Okay. Don't forget, by the way, while we are just trundling along and searching for something to show you in the stormy weather, don't forget to send through your questions, and you can do that on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Obviously, when the kids are with us, we prioritize their questions, but now it's your turn, and we can chat a little bit about all sorts of interesting and exciting things. I think if the storm does come, it's going to be short-lived. I don't know, we're still okay. Oh, Piggy! Oh, Piggy running away. Don't run away, Piggy. Oh, luckily we've got some really subtle brakes to bring us to a stop. Pig gone. Warthog vanished. I don't know how Brent feels about this ominous weather. Perhaps he will tell you in just a few moments.
Well, it is quite ominous, but I think it's more bark than bite. I think normally when you get really strong winds like this, you don't get too much rain. And welcome to Safari Live. My name is Brent Smith. I have Vim on camera with me, and of course Herbie providing security detail. We've just heard some very disappointing news. It seems like a shadow has snuck out behind us, where we've been checking. She's managed to cross the southern boundary into Hoffman's. So, what now? What would you like us to go look for? Let me know, hashtag Safari Live, and on Twitter, and let us know what you would like to see on the bushwalk today. We can start off with a pretty flower. Now, I always find these flowers quite funny. They're called a silver Vernonia, Vernonia fastigiatum, but I have no idea why it's called silver, because it's got purple flowers and green stems. Oh, spider. There we go. There's looks like a little crab spider of sorts. It's always amazing when you look a little bit closer. All the fascinating things. You can see there's a very fine web strung between the top of this little Vernonia. Now, these are more ambush hunters, so they're not actually catching their prey with their webs. They will store prey in their webs, but they won't catch it. Sorry, the wind is howling. I'm trying to keep this branch as still as possible. Oh, there we go. Okay. We're going to keep moving now. I think, well, I'm waiting to hear what you guys would like to see. So we're going to abandon searching for shadow. We're going to head back. I think let's head further to the west. Hello, Bobby. Bobby's wondering, do we get tornadoes here? We get dust devils, sort of mini tornadoes, but nothing quite to the same degree as you get in the United States, where they rip roofs off houses. It's possible. I've heard of one dust devil that was big enough to do that, but that was in the desert regions of Botswana. So it is quite unusual for us to get them, but during the dry season we will get dust devils. Basically, what a dust devil is a hot air thermal that's collected a bunch of dust, specifically when it's very dry and the sun has baked the earth and there's lots of dust, and it just twirls that dust up and leaves. Sometimes they can be very beautiful when they got lots of orange leaves from the terminalias and from the combretums as the season changes. Let's have a look. Do we have any other flowers out and about today? There are not too many flowers. We're very late in the season, so quite nice to see those begonias. Mohammed's wondering, what is the strangest behavior I've seen by animals during the rain? Well, most animals sort of just hunker down, Mohammed, but I have seen baboons in the Kruger National Park. They go under the bridges, the very big bridges that across the rivers to get out of the wet. So a lot of the primates really don't like the rain, so that's what they do to try and get away. And we can see there is a bit of an anvil forming off to the left, but I think that's still quite far away. I don't know. Of course, the guys on the vehicles will have a better chance of seeing what's going on because they can drive up to the high ground to have a look to see if it is going to come in. But I think we'll be okay. I think it's going to blow past. Wiem think there's a wall of rain coming, so we're in maybe I should climb a tree to see. Yeah, let me find a vantage point. Let's find a vantage point to look at the wall of rain. Whee! Okay, don't fall out of the tree now, Leo Smith. Vim, I think it's quite far away. Well, I might get blown out of the tree before I fall out of the tree. Well, I think we might have to maybe play it safe. We might have to start heading back for camp and get the tent set up, just in case this rain does. Oh, there's the first drop. Okay, well, Jamie seems to have her rain covers on already, so let's go across to her.
And I think it's all a case of better safe than sorry. I think Brent is absolutely right. It seems as though the rain is on its way. We've got our rain covers on, just in case it does get here. They're not particularly, they were somewhat hastily assembled, so we haven't done a particularly good job. I just need to tuck that underneath me. There we go. So for those of you for whom this is a new experience, we try to go out in all weathers, wind, rain or shine. Often rain, but the one thing that we cannot do is if the lightning is here, if it is more than, or if it is closer than 5 kilometers to us, then we have to go and retreat to the tent. It's just for safety's sake. Even though there have been discussions about the fact that we're on rubber wheels, we're in an open vehicle with a large lightning conductor, and we would really rather avoid being struck by lightning, is just the standard approach, which I think is probably fair enough. And it does happen. Things do get struck by lightning. And Michelle, you want to know how many animals get struck annually by lightning? I have to confess, I don't know. I don't know what the exact statistic is. I know that it would be higher in places like the Highveld, where the storms are really very severe. We do get scary storms here as well. They do get struck, particularly giraffe. Look at the way this hornbill's running along. Oh, he's gone. There he is. While we watch this hornbill, we can talk about the... Never mind, he's gone. Talk about the morbid subject that is animals struck by lightning. Giraffe, it happens to relatively regularly. And I once came upon a scene like something out of a horror movie with fried impala underneath a tree that had been struck by lightning. There must have been about 10 of them that were dead all around it. It was very, very creepy to look at. Oh, hello, beautiful boy. Hello, mister. Yes, I'm talking about you, gorgeous kudu. Oh, never mind, he's gone. Let me try to go a bit further forward. Hello, boy, don't run away. It's okay. I saw this kudu dash in front of us earlier. There we go. I know about the wildebeest in front of me, but this kudu's about to disappear. He's going to run away. There he goes. Beautiful male kudu. Look at that elegant stride. Nice, Senzo. Very well done. As he gallops off across the road. Cool. Such powerful creatures, kudu. They can jump 6 feet in from a standing start easily. It's amazing to witness. I've seen them jump straight over a fence before. No run up, nothing, just bonk, over and done. And there's another antelope over here that is a natural athlete. There we go. Funnily enough, Reese, while we watch the oxpeckers flutter about the wildebeest, I was thinking the exact same thing along the same lines, at least, that you were. So Reese would like to know, when a storm is building, if a storm is building, all the birds sense it and seek out cover or come down out of the skies. And they definitely will once the storm hits properly. But I was just thinking about how much fun it must be for a raptor species, an eagle or something like that, before the storm hits, to be able to ride the air currents. But absolutely, when the storm does come, all of the birds, even these oxpeckers that are busy cleaning away at this beautiful male wildebeest, picking away at all of the exoparasites on him, they will go and hide in the densest, leafiest tree that they can find. I remember when Dineo came. Dineo was a tropical cyclone that, well, to say it was a bit of a storm in a teacup would be putting it mildly. We did have a bit of rain and wind, though, and the poor birds were all huddled so miserably outside of our bedroom window. I felt so sorry for them, watching them in the howling, howling wind, flapping their feathers. Yes, the great deluge. But yes, even the oxpeckers will seek refuge. I must say, these wildebeest, these male wildebeest, are looking in magnificent condition. Sleek, glossy coats, and this is always the case in the build-up to the rutting season. I've seen the male wildebeest mating with several of the females on quarantine. This is not him. This is his arch rival, who occupies the territory just to the south of him. I wonder whether there have been any ferocious battles between the two of them over the ladies. Probably not, just by sheer virtue of the fact that the females have been spending more time in the territory of the other male. But you never know. I've very seldom witnessed physically aggressive fights between male wildebeest. Of course it happens, but I haven't seen it all that often. But their bodies are in peak condition at this time of year. They're so odd looking. Why the long face? Things are not so bad. And I'm not quite sure if it's Alinda or Belinda. You want to know because we've got antelopes, we saw that kudu with those long spiraling horns. Sorry, Olinda. You know, those antelope with the long spiraling horns, the kudu, we've got this chap over here. You say, if the antelope with the long horns, would they be at risk of being struck by lightning? Yes, as I said, it does happen, but not necessarily because they've got long horns. Giraffe, they get struck because they're so much taller and higher than everything else. But antelope, generally speaking, it's because they've just got unlucky and they've sheltered underneath the wrong tree. And speaking of birds, sorry, I've just spotted one that does look as though it's gone to ground. Senzo, if you look over there, there's that big tree directly at sort of 10 o'clock from us. There we go. That's the one in the middle of your screen at the top there. That's it. If you zoom in and down a little bit, and there, in the middle of your screen now. If you zoom in a bit further, there we go. It's a lilac-breasted roller. Surprisingly invisible with those bright colors. Now I'm just going to get out of Brent's way. He can come past so that he can get on his way towards the tent. Oh, there we go. One puffed up, hiding lilac-breasted roller. Let me get out of Brent's way so he can come past and set up the tent. Sorry, Voldy. It's all happening here, isn't it? Let's go look at a giraffe. I think that's what we shall do. Unless You want to know what my favorite antelope is? I always find those questions really very tricky to answer. Can I think about it for a second? I've been asked it before, and I usually come up with a different answer each time. Bye-bye. Enjoy. I would say... Oh, those clouds are gorgeous. Sorry, I can't not point them out. Let's just have a look, Senzo, at those gorgeous, gorgeous clouds while I think of my favorite antelope. I really like gemsbok. I really like steenbok. I really like sable. And I'm finding it very difficult to choose one particular favorite antelope species. Bushbuck. I also really love bushbuck. So can I choose 5? Is that okay? Is that acceptable? Can I choose 5 favorite antelope? Gemsbok, bushbuck, sable. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca says yes. Steenbok, because somebody once told me I'd be a steenbok if I was an antelope. I wasn't sure whether that was offensive or not. I took it as a compliment. And one more. What am I going to choose? Roan. I also really like roan antelope. We never see them, but I have spent a lot of time in the past working with roan antelope, whether it's through breeding programs or on various more arid reserves, and I find them fascinating. There's obviously, I have a certain attraction towards the horse type antelope, the gemsbok and the roan and the sable. Roan have got these ridiculously long ears, and maybe some of you, those of you who are on Twitter, if you could share a picture of what a roan antelope looks like, because the diagram in my book that I have with me is not a particularly good one. They've got the most ridiculous, they're like donkey ears. I love them. I think they're fascinating. And also full of attitude. Kaitek? Kaitek would like to know which of the antelope is the most intelligent. Oh, thanks. I think, Senzo, I'm going to keep going. I'm just driving past a bird that Senzo has pointed out because I want to get to a pair of giraffe that's been called in before the storm hits. I think we're going to be okay. I don't know why everybody's panicking. Okay, that's rain. That's serious rain. That is serious rain. Hey, stay where I put you. Intelligent antelope. I've always thought bushbuck have quite an intelligent look in their eyes. What else? I could say wildebeest are not particularly intelligent, although who am I to judge? I don't have to live their lives. I don't have to survive in the way that they do. Generally speaking, they don't look particularly bright. Gemsbok, also not a particularly bright antelope from what I've been able to tell. Very strong, very resilient, and with those meter-long sort of spear-like horns, they can actually be quite dangerous. But not bright. Generally speaking, I'm not sure that antelope are winning any prizes for being the problem solvers of the wild. And that sort of intelligence goes to things like elephants and spotted hyena, monkeys, baboons. I also think leopards are quite bright as well. But it's really hard. From a human perspective, how on earth do you scientifically measure? You can do problem-solving tests and so on. But scientifically comparing an animal's intelligence, it's like that famous quote about all of us. What's the thing about everyone having a different sort of intelligence? It's to do with a fish climbing the tree. It's a little comic. I know what I mean. I can't think what it was though. Rebecca, do you know what I mean? Where all the animals are given instructions to climb up a tree, but one of them's a fish. Rebecca's not listening. No, there she is. The catfish. Haha. Sure, well, the good news is it's no longer just myself knocking about. James has made it back out onto the reserve. Let's go and find out how he's feeling.
I'm feeling fine, everybody, but Wendy is not feeling fine because, well, she's a cantankerous old bat. She's leaking fluid, no signal. We're now on Jigger, of course, who is not much better, but so far is behaving. There is a very vast amount of water falling out of the sky over there. You can see that we have the roof on at the moment, so if poles and canvas do come into view, that's why we're worried that, well, it looks pretty isolated at the moment, but that thunderous cloud is going to eventually arrive and dump on us. Brent Leo Smith has given up his... I thought I saw a spider. Has given up his search for the leopards. He's back on quarry. Well, he's going to walk around quarantine in case he needs to go to the tent. And of course, he and Viam, they find the tent possibly the most exciting thing in the world. So they're overwhelmed with joy at the thought of going into the tent. Okay, our plan is to go and find the elephant bull that we saw before we were rudely, called home by Wendy's deficiencies. And it was just down on Twin Dams Road, and I'm rather hoping we'll be able to find him again. He was a young bull. It's a very, very attractive afternoon. Reese, I think this is going to be one of the most innovative things that happens on Safari Live one day. You say, wouldn't we like to have an electric vehicle? And the answer is absolutely, we'd love to have an electric vehicle. It would be the most wonderful thing to be able to drive completely silently like this. I'm now rolling down the hill, and this is what it would sound like, and I think the animals would appreciate it. I could whisper while driving. I could talk in this manner, in the sort of Attenborough-esque attempt that I'm making now while moving forward. The animals wouldn't react nearly as badly. They'd stop and look like they're doing now. And so yes, I think an electric vehicle, Reese, would be a huge innovation. Now, I mean, I have some experience of electric vehicles out here. And I mean, this is a good 7 years ago, so I mean, there have been vast increases in the technology since then. But the electric vehicle that we used to use around Londolozi unfortunately burst into flames in the workshop and then exploded. So, I mean, that would be obviously a less than ideal guest experience. And so that experiment was, put to bed, really. And I'm not sure if they've managed to find... I think they do have another one that they're a prototype that they're trying now. And hopefully one day we too will be able to use electric vehicles that are viable out here in the bush. Barb, Laura and James, you're wondering why the eyes of a wildebeest are so high up on the head. Well, let's look at them. There is one looking at us. I think that you'll find the eyes are so high up on the head because most of the time that they're vulnerable, of course, their heads are down on the ground. They're grazing. And so if your eyes are quite high up on the head, it allows you to see through the long grass while you're eating it. So I would suspect that's probably why. The other thing about this herd of wildebeest, and of course I couldn't mention it when it all happened because we were talking to the school drive yesterday, is that they're mating. The bull here, we watched him mate with 3 or 4 females yesterday, and this is obviously their mating time. And I wonder if that isn't why this herd is so big. And I think, I mean, if we sat and... you see, if we watch for long enough, I think we might even see it occurring. Yes, he's certainly... looking to get it on, as it were. She, however, is disinterested. Let's see what happens here. That is in the background, by the way, Vuurtela Camp, which is part of the tourism operation that is at Juma. Just don't mind us, you just carry on, as you were. And of course they give birth at the end of November, beginning of December, sometimes end of December. And so you'd expect them to be breeding now, just before the impala, because their gestation period is about 6 weeks longer. Lady Starfire, you're asking a question about how often the antelope on Djuma breed. Well, there are 10 potential species of antelope that we get here, and so to ask how often they breed would be, you couldn't really say for every, in fact you probably could say for every single antelope. Just about all of them, Lady, what was it? It wasn't Doubtfire, Lady Wattyfire? Deathly silence in my ear. It would be every year. Just about every single antelope out here will breed every single year. Some females won't if perhaps there's a drought or they're getting too old or they're too young, then they won't. But all of the 10 species, which include the reedbuck and the sable, very unusually, they'll both breed every year. Yes, sable might not. Sable might only breed once every 2 or 3 years. But I suspect they probably could, in good conditions, breed every year. Then the wildebeest every year, kudu every year, kudu most years, not every year. Impala, duiker, steenbok, wildebeest, as I said, nyala, and bushbuck probably most years. So in good years, most of them will breed every year. And Barbara, you're wondering if wildebeest are good mothers. Well, it depends entirely on what your definition of a good mother is. Do they tuck their children in and read them bedtime stories? Well, absolutely not. Are they effective mothers for the function that they are designed to perform? Yes, they are. And it's a little bit like that question you were discussing with Jamie. What's the most intelligent antelope? It's all, of course, judged by human standards. So, were a mother human to treat her babies in the same way that a wildebeest treats her calves, well, the mother would probably be put away by social services for neglect and abuse in some ways. You must see how difficult it is for a baby wildebeest to try and suckle. The mothers are walking around constantly. They don't ever find a private spot and sit quietly so the youngsters can feed. They're forced onto solid food extremely early on in life. And so by our standards, well, they wouldn't be a great set of parents at all. But by wildebeest standards, absolutely very good. Let's head across to Brent. He's managed to find his way on. No, okay, we're not going to. Right, we're here on with the wildebeest again. There's a couple of technical problems here. Now, you say, where do they get the name wildebeest from? Well, wildebeest means wild beast. And, I'm not sure why the original Dutch settlers here called them wildebeest or wild beasts. They're certainly not the most wild beasts that we get out here at all. Oh, the bull has picked up immediately on the female that could easily be displaying some kind of desire to mate. If she is ready to mate, those hormones are going to be in her urine, so that's what he's rushed around to check. Quite difficult when you can't say, are you ready to mate to her? You've got to go and do some smelling of different things. Oh, look, there he's doing his phlegm. Ugh, glad I don't have to do that. Yeah, really. Okay, let's head across to Jamie. She's managed to find her giraffe.
Two giraffe, actually, and we arrived just in time. I'd heard a report that there were giraffe on Djuma, but they've just crossed south into Little Gowrie, so we're fortunate enough to have a view of them. Sorry, I thought I heard a car coming up behind me, but I was mistaken. And luckily we've just managed to squeeze this gap in so that we can see them. So two lovely ladies. I wonder what happened to that giraffe calf that was spending a lot of time around Djuma. Obviously, while I've been on leave, I've lost track of how it was and what it was looking like. And of course, giraffe aren't territorial, so it's not as though Mom was going to necessarily stick around for the 3 weeks that we were gone. But we do start to recognize individuals, or at least see them, if not regularly, we see them for an extended period of time, and then they move on and we don't see them again for quite a long time. And I know that there are two females. just purely by the size of their heads, the fact that the tips of the ossicones are tufted with black fur, whereas with the males, the ossicones, or the horns, on the top of their head, they're not actually technically horns because the giraffe is born with them. But in males, those are much, much thicker and rubbed bald at the top. Now, it's very clearly a female giraffe. I always find that a giraffe, and I've said this many times before, I always find that a giraffe looks stranger the longer you look at it. They really are truly peculiar looking creatures. And those amazingly long necks, and this is actually a truly beautiful female. Look at that lovely colour. And then their funny little nostrils and their bright purple tongues, or deep purple tongues actually. Here we go, she gave us a nice demonstration there, cleaning out her nostril with it. And of course, their beautiful long eyelashes as well. There you go. Dark tongue impregnated with melanin, in order to protect it from the sharp thorns that she has to wrap it around. No, don't go. Wait for me. Unfortunately, this area is south of our boundary, which means that they're gone. I'll try for one last view, but they appear to want to be further south. Oh? Where'd you go? Here we go. And she's cantering up over the hill. Eric, you want to know if we could please discuss the relationship between giraffe and acacias. And I'm sorry, I'm going to need to move. I can, with pleasure. Just give me 1 second. Try and get a view. Move out of Sean's way. Oh dear. Just see them. How's it, Sean? How are you? Good. Hi, guys. Yes. The one gentleman just informed us that our camera is bigger than his camera. That it is. That it is. What were we talking about? Relationships between giraffes and acacia trees. Well, obviously, there's the feeding aspects. Sorry, Eric, I'm distracted now. I'm trying to find you a place where you can actually see the giraffe while we talk about them. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, obviously, to state the real obvious, giraffe like to eat acacia. However, the acacia trees have a particularly good defense. There we go. We might just have a gap here. Acacias have a very, there we go, useful defense in the form of tannin production. So once the giraffe starts to feed upon the leaves, the tree starts to release tannins, and the tannins make the leaves very, very bitter, which in turn means that they're not particularly palatable and the giraffe no longer eats them. However, the tannin production not only is stimulated in the acacia that the giraffe is eating, it's also spread to the trees around it by the wind, which is why very often when you watch animals feeding, they will feed into the wind, because the tannins haven't been stimulated in the trees that are, if the wind is blowing it in the opposite direction. And of course, acacias have evolved several different defenses in the form of the thorns that grow out of them, and at the same time, that is not a deterrent for something like a giraffe. They have they do have long eyelashes and very, very tough skin and a tough tongue, which allows them to feed off the acacia trees, even despite the thorny defense mechanisms. There's also a theory that giraffe are one of the pollinators of particularly acacia tree species. So it's not just the insects that go and feed off the pollen of the flowers, and the flowers are produced around about, I would say, around about September time, particularly something like a knobthorn, which is Acacia nigrescens. And the giraffe will go and feed. Obviously its face will get covered in pollen, and it'll move on to the next tree and it will, in that way, it actually assists with the fertilization of certain acacia species at that time of year. It's one of the few animals, apart from an elephant, that can reach up high on some of the larger, more mature knobthorn trees. So it can act as a pollinator as well. And they've vanished. They have very definitely officially vanished, and we're now on a traffic jam. Let me just sit this one out. The storm seems to have passed, and I don't think we're in any danger of being rained upon. Right, from the amazing giraffe to an incredibly endangered bird, let's go and see what James has found.
Well, there we have the incredibly endangered bird. Yes, indeed, the turkey-like figure of the grand hornbill. The same crew that we saw this morning. Was it this morning? No, it was yesterday morning, and then on the walk yesterday afternoon. 3 of them fossicking about in the grass, looking for nice things to eat. And of course the question is begged every time we see them. Why does a bird so large and seemingly able to defend itself struggle so much to remain extant as a species? Well, the reasons are many and varied. They're largely, of course, got to do with human beings taking away the places that they used to live. Also, extremely slow breeders. So any bird that gets out of a protected area will eventually probably die before it reaches breeding age. We'll try and get a little bit closer. And that breeding age is about 9, so it takes them 9 years to become sexually mature and then able to breed. And so you can imagine any bird that isn't in a protected area has a very small chance of making it to, well, 3 years, let alone 9. And then, of course, the other reason is the fact that they nest in tree holes. And there was some talk, fairly recently about how it could easily be the fact that there's so many elephants around that's causing the problem, because the elephants, of course, are pushing over some big trees. They, in turn, that in turn is reducing the nesting holes big enough for the ground hornbills to go into. I don't buy that myself. I think human beings are to blame almost universally. For thousands of years they survived with elephants. Why things should have changed now, I don't know. There's a lovely view of one of them. Unfortunately, it is now not a lovely view. They're very nervous. With good reason, of course. They don't want to die, obviously. In fact, when we were coming back here, I nearly ran over a Speaks-hinged tortoise because we were trying to hurry back. And that is exactly what they would be looking for, of course. Let's get a comprehensive list of what they eat, because, I often find that I'm starting to say the same things about what predators eat, because it tends to be that so many of them eat just about anything that they can overpower. Right, here we go. Digs amongst dung heaps in the dry season. Eats wide range of prey, well, we knew that. Alates, dung beetles, grasshoppers, snails, frogs, toads, snakes, lizards, chameleons, tortoises, turtles, mongooses, squirrels, birds, and even young scrub hares, if you can believe it. Amazing. Sometimes eats carrion, sometimes kleptoparasitizes. In other words, it steals, kills from other birds. Dastardly creature. Let's head across to a much less dastardly creature. He is knocking about on quarantine clearings.
Well, we've moved off quarantine near one of the little river systems, and we found something really cool. Now, it is 2 pieces of a bird's egg. Now, it's quite a big egg for this area, very white. So I've got a question. Who out there thinks they know what bird this egg belongs to. Now, the next question one asks, has this egg been eaten by a genet or a mongoose, or has this bird managed to hatch and run out of the egg? Well, I can tell you it's hatched. So if I take the two pieces and I carefully play puzzle and I put them together like that, and I hold it carefully, you can see. So that bird is hatched. It hasn't been eaten. There'd be much more of a mess. So it's managed to use that little horn that develops on its beak in the egg to just break through and become a member of the bird society. Now, remember, hashtag Safari Live. What bird do you think this quite large egg belongs to? It's a bit smaller than a hen's egg. Okay, now VM and I have been sitting here for a while, and we've decided we're going to show you as many interesting things, 10 in fact, without moving from this very spot. You say that is impossible. I say it is very doable. Now, one of the things you learn a lot about on bushwalk is seed dispersal methods. Now, we are like all the other animals. As we walk through the bush, different species of grass, etc., attach themselves to us, and you can see how sticky they are and how they actually develop to get stuck into the hair of any animal coming past. So that actually looks like a little panicum seed that's got wrapped in, and you can see it's really in there. Ow! So there we go. That was one. I sat on a separate seed dispersal. Now, if you look at this from a distance, it looks like a beautiful little fluffy white seed on a little bush. But if I sneak... Oh, I just sat on one of these. Ow! Darn it. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, there we go. Ow. You'll see why I'm owing. If you look carefully inside that beautiful white fluff, there are razor sharp little thorns that are designed to attach themselves to the animals as they move past. Very, very cool. Okay, I just need to rearrange my, ow, and then I put my hand on one, and you can see they're all over the place, and they just look like they're absolutely nothing. And then, in the closer look, you can see those evil little spikes inside. Too close? But now, as I said, so what is that now, VM? That's, we did the egg. Ow! I need to go back to my original seat. There's no spikes there. Ow! So we've done the egg. We've done two different grasses, and I think I saw, yes, a third grass that I wanted to show you. This is called a small spear grass. I'm hoping these seeds are ready. Let's see, we pull on them like this. Okay, so they've got a very, very interesting dispersal method. So they'll be blown from the wind at this. I'm hoping it's ready, but if you just slowly give them a little turn, they normally get that from when they go into the wind. And there we go. And we find a nice piece of soft soil where it would pop in. Tell me when you got it, Vim. Cool. There you go. Oh no, it fell down. Darn it. No. No, that one. Okay, I need another one. So actually, if you get one that's relatively ready to be dispersed, so if you don't have to pull them out, you just pull very softly, and you give them that little turn, it actually burrows, it corkscrews. It's designed to corkscrew into the grass. Okay, let's try another one. We've got a few. Okay. One of these is going to work. I got a feeling. We'll put it in my mouth. We'll try. But so basically, I think these might be a bit too green. Let's try now. Is it spinning in my... Oh, it started spinning in my fingers. No, you're supposed to wait till you're in the ground. You see it slowly moving. So it actually corkscrews into the soil, which I've always found amazing since I was a little kid. Now this grass, I don't even know what it is. The next one. It's spear grass that's gone awry. Look at that. So that hasn't managed to get into ground, but because of the wind, it's corkscrewed and tied itself in a knot. How cool is that? It's very pretty, isn't it? I think make a wonderful decoration. Well, we've still got a few more interesting things around us to show you, but it seems like Jamie's got one of the biggest birds we get here.
Beautiful big birds, and I'm very sorry, I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel at the same time. It sounds like Tingana might have made an appearance on Cheetah Plain, so I just want to keep listening for the updates. I know Rexon is over there, so we might go rushing across in that direction. And of course, as there is a certain inevitability, it seems as though our ground hornbill have completely vanished. It's the same ones that James was with. Interestingly enough, we're seeing them more and more regularly. It looked like, from what I could see, a male and a juvenile. I couldn't see if there was a female with them as well. Oh, and there goes an impala ram. Skittish in this windy weather. Racing along. Okay. No, there they come. There they come. They're going to pop out into the open once again. I love these birds, and the fact that we get to sit and watch them when they have basically come back, not quite from the brink of extinction, but certainly from being critically endangered. And the wonderful thing is that their numbers seem to be slowly but surely recovering. And this is a situation where human intervention has gone right in terms of saving these big birds. At one point there were around about 1,400 left in the wild. And through concerted efforts, that number seems to be growing. It was around about 2010 that their numbers were at that sort of level. And that equates to about 400 breeding females. So that's not very many at all when you think about the fact that they're distributed throughout southern Africa. That's why each and every single sighting of these is special, and that's why each and every single sighting of these birds is recorded and kept a record of, including the GPS coordinates of where they are. And there's a massive project known as the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project, where chicks are hand-raised with puppets so as to prevent the birds imprinting or associating people with food. And ultimately those birds are released back into the wild. And the fascinating thing about ground hornbills, unfortunately, is that they're not particularly good breeders. It takes them a very long time to reach sexual maturity, around about 7 to 8 years. And records have shown, or research has shown, that the birds will not successfully raise a chick unless they have helped their parents raising another chick. Isn't that interesting? Sorry, I just got to move out of the way. I'm in everybody's way this afternoon. So while I try and dodge every vehicle, let's go and have a look at what James has found. How's it going?
I'm afraid this buffalo, for a long time, was showing us its better end. Unfortunately now, as we've come live, which is typical, it has turned its bottom to us in disgust. And as Craig was saying, and you must understand, of course, that doesn't happen very often, Craig was saying it's being so dramatic, and it was. It was looking up at us and sort of snorting and then tossing its head and then turning away and looking back suddenly. And now, of course, it's just being rather boring buffalo-ish. Let's move a little bit closer forward. We were having quite a nice time with this buffalo. We'll just sneak a little closer. We don't want to give him a fright, but it was great fun when he was doing his little sort of, not quite Liberace display, but it was pretty close. There we are. Hello. Liberace the buffalo. With two little oxpeckers on his back, trying to fight their way through the mud. They look rather surprised. It almost looks like they've built themselves a mud fortification behind which they're hiding. And I can hear another vehicle. I'm pretty sure it's Jamie. I think she's not far. Obviously she isn't if she's just had those ground hornbills. And there he is chewing away on the long grass. Ah, now that's a wonderful picture of him. Now I think the reason he keeps lifting his head and turning is because the wind is swirling a bit, so every so often he gets a whiff of human being in amongst the smell of the lovely grass and the rain coming in from, well, pretty much all angles. And then that very pleasant natural smell is ruined by the whiff of man. And as we know out here, animals do not like the whiff of man. It makes them very uncomfortable. This is the only buffalo bull on Djuma, just about. Well, it's the only one I know of. We saw him in Twin Dams this morning, but I think he's, well, I'm pretty sure it's the same fellow. He looks just about exactly the same. And they've been really in short supply these days. And of course, one of the interesting things is that everybody, or so many people come out here, and I've lamented this before, but so many people come out here to Africa and they're desperate to see the big five, must see the big five. And so they tell their guides this, and especially
Oh dear, it seems as though somebody's disappeared off your screen. I'm not sure. I can't remember whether you were with James or with Brent. We do apologize. It's one of those that happens, bringing you a live safari from the middle of this beautiful wilderness. Sometimes the signal just disappears. But onwards we go. I'm still debating, racing all the way. Tingana's on the other side of Cheetah Plains, so it's very, very far away. But what do we think? Hyena Den or Tingana? I think we should put it to you guys. What should I do? But you got to do this fast. You got to tweet fast to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Tingana or Hyena Den? I suppose James could go to the Hyena Den. We can toss it up. It seems as though James is having signal issues. There is a standby situation for Tingana, but we'll get in there. So quickly, Tingana or Hyena Den? Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. What would you like me to do? Your wish is my command. We gotta decide by the time we get to this junction, because I've got to decide which way I'm gonna go. Which way are we gonna go? Okay, I'm going towards the southern boundary. Which way should we go? Rebecca, what does everybody want me to do? Tingana wins the vote. Hopefully James will be able to go and visit the Hyena Den at some point. He doesn't have to. It's just I know that they are out and about. That was where I was on my way to when I heard this update. Okay, Tingana it is. We shall race to Tingana, and hopefully we don't get caught in the storm. I don't think we will. I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Now I've said that, we're going to get drenched, aren't we? Oh well. Oh, zooming around Twin Dams. Rick, sorry, is that animal static or is he mobile? Silence. Yeah, well, we'll find out when we get there. Hold on, everybody. Sorry, Mr. Impala. I'm sorry. We're on our way to see a leopard. You don't want to come with us, I assure you. Whee! Poor Senzo bumping along on the back. Senzo still hasn't experienced a wild dog chase yet. I'm going to race across to Tingana as you desire, and while I do, let's send you over to Brent so he can finish up his interesting things conversation.
As I said, we've kept our promise. We haven't moved an inch. And there we go. We found the tiniest little grasshopper that exquisitely camouflaged as well. Isn't that beautiful? It always amazes me how the insect world has really, really mastered the art of camouflage. Very, very cool. He looks exactly like the little bits of quartz and sand around him. Okay, now we've located, without moving, some more spear grass, and this time we actually managed to get one to go almost all the way into the ground earlier. Look at that. So let's try again. Let's put it in. I think I put... Wait, come on, get in the water around. Look at, there we go. Look at that. Down it goes. Oh no, it was stopped by the other piece of spear grass. Oh dear, something crawled into my shoe. Right, there we go. So we had the spear grass, and where was the other thing? Oh yes, right here, the tiniest. I'm very irritated with myself. Some of you might know, because I'm sure Steph showed you these bugs before. I cannot for the life of me remember their name. Now, can you believe that... Oh, he's gone. But that was a living insect. It's now just an egg casing. You see, you can see that the bug is vacated. You can just see the little holes. And you've got these little bugs that literally look like a piece of fluff, like a little bit of bird down as they move around. So cool. The miniature world. I'm sure there was a documentary called that. But now you might have noticed that I've got a feather in my hat now, and it's quite a big one, quite a nice pretty one, and I'm sure a lot of you will recognize it as the guinea fowl feather. And there was a reason it was in my hat. Earlier it was a clue to the quiz I asked a little bit earlier. Oh dear. And thunder and lightning, very ominous all around us as we sit quietly here in amongst the grass. Well done to Lauren and Aaron. So the feather and the egg go together. They're both from the same species of bird. Guinea fowl. Guinea fowl. This one's obviously from one that's been out of the egg stage for quite some time. Okay, now we are sort of being hemmed in here by the cloud at the moment. So we're going to start slowly meandering back towards quarantine, just in case it does start to rain. It's very seldom we get rain from the north, but when we do, it can be quite the storm. Okay, I'm just trying to remember, have we done 10 things, Vim? We've done spear grass, we've done spiky grass that's stuck to Brent's bottom, we've done a guinea fowl, so what was that? Spear grass, spiky grass, little bug egg casing, guinea fowl feather, guinea fowl egg, panicum grass stuck in my leg here, and still knotted from that. What are we now? 6. Oh dear, only 6. Okay. Thank you. Herbie, no, that's cheating, Herbie. Herbie's trying to help me cheat. He's bringing me something from far away. No, Herbie, I have to have it from here. Well, wait, I'll try not look at Herbie's offering. We'll use it later once we've discovered everything that is around us already. Oh, the grasshopper, 7. Okay. Now, and then that velvet ant disappeared. Oh, what's that, Vim? What is that, Vim? Here. Look at that. It looks like there's something that's made a nest there. Oh, there's ants. What do they look like through the camera, Vim?
Box skeletons.
Skeletons. Oh, you know what that is? That's probably a spider's nest, and it's probably stuck. I don't want to break it open because obviously I think the spider still lives there. So he's meshed with his web these leaves together, and he's ambushed the spider. Oh, it looks like some Polyrhynchus ants, and he's eaten them all and just left their carapaces behind. That was number 8, Vim. Number 9 is the bush itself that those Polyrhynchus or expired Polyrhynchus ants are in. It is a tiny little sandpaper. Oh no, it's not a sandpaper raisin. What? No, it's not. It's a flavescens. It is a little raisin bush, and in this area they don't get too big because the elephants like to keep them quite well trimmed, but they have wonderful, beautiful yellow flowers. But this is not one we see too often. We normally see the sandpaper raisin is the most common one we see, and that's 9 and 10 to finish it with a really easy one, one that I was saving, and there we go. Scrub hair pellets. Now they're not dark black like other grass eaters pellets, and that's because scrub hares eat their own feces up to 7 times to get all the possible nutrients out of it. So the reason they do that is because they don't have a ruminating stomach, so they've only got 1 stomach, not 4. So to get the best out of their grass, they have to eat it up to 7 times. Okay, it's I've got so many thorns in my bottom. Okay, well, I'll try to remove the thorns from my bottom. Let's go see what James Henry's up to.
This is a dreadful, dreadful thought. Brent Leo Smith with thorns in his bottom. I'm sorry about that we lost the buffalo just back then. I was rather enjoying my buffalo sighting, as they are unusual. And what I was waffling on about was that, of course, the fact that people come out to Africa and they're told they must try and see the Big Five, and then these days all around these lodges, of course, it's been really difficult to find buffalo, and normally in the dry season nobody even bothers to call them in on the radio because they're all over the place. Now you've got people herring about, standing by, 6 vehicles standing by to get into the sighting of one buffalo bull. And it's not a situation that happens very often. And the reason I think it's slightly lamentable, of course, is because you don't ever find people standing by to get into a sighting of, say, giraffe, which are fantastic, or kudu, which are equally beautiful, or wild dogs and cheetah you will, of course, and they are not part of the Big Five. Now, our plan from here is to, well, first of all, stay within signal range so we don't have any more problems like we've had with Wendy and Jigger today. And then we're going to go back past where Brent and Jamie were looking for shadow earlier on. And there's a good reason for that. Brent and Herbert think that she's left the cub in the drainage line there, and it is entirely possible that she could come back towards the area. And if she does that, well, then we might be in luck, and maybe we'll see her and the little babies. You can see I put my jersey on because it's become slightly cooler as I guess there is a storm raging somewhere. I think we're just feeling the outer arms of it at the moment. And so we'll just keep slowly driving along here and see if we don't have some luck with some tracks, or indeed the animal crossing the road. Hello Bobby, maybe you're a new viewer, but I'm sure you are, and if you are, it's wonderful to hear from you, and thank you for watching the show. You say, in the dry season, will we pump water for the animals? Yes, there is some water pumped for the animals, certainly, up around the big dam in front of Juma, in front of Vuatela, in front of one of the camps. There is some pumping of water. Just about every single lodge around here, even if they don't pump water, they certainly have dams to store the water. Now, I mean, of course, this is a controversial practice because what it does is that it keeps animals around a specific area during the dry season when they used to move off and give the grazing time to recover. That doesn't happen anymore. Because we pump water. Initially it was because we thought we were doing a good thing, and we thought that, well, I mean, human beings need to drink a lot of water, so surely animals do as well, and therefore we must give them as much water as they can possibly need. And that, of course, resulted in an enormous decline in the biodiversity of these areas. The number of antelope species that could survive reduced dramatically. because those that weren't water dependent couldn't compete with the animals that were water dependent, like impala and zebra, for example. And so latterly, the pumping of water has had a lot more to do with tourism. So keeping an eye, or making sure that your piece of reserve where you have your lodge keeps animals around, so that you don't ever have a dead time of the year. So there are always animals around when you have guests or tourists. So it is slightly controversial. Now I've turned off because I want to see if I can't maybe hear some alarm calls. We might be lucky to hear them. Unfortunately, jigger, of course, unless you're on an angle of about 30 degrees. Oh, there's a button quail. That's why turning off is so good. I just heard a scuttling. It's either a button quail or a baby francolin. There. There. Can you see, Craig, just to the right of this bush? There, it's just moving in the grass there. There. It's not, it's a tiny little crested francolin. I thought it was a button quail, it's about the same size. Look at them. 3 little crested francolins going off with their mum. And their dad, and their aunts, and uncles. You know what this probably is? I wonder if that's not a second clutch for the season. I'm pretty sure that those other 3 at the back are juveniles. They grow up very quickly, of course, and I think that the year has been so good on the grass, seed and insect front that this little covey of crested francolins has produced another clutch, a late clutch. Isn't that sweet? That's very cool. Well, maybe not shadow and cub, but certainly crested francolin and chick. Let's keep going along here. It's only about that big. We'll drive very carefully along here. A little bit of pace up so we can turn the car off again. I tell you, driving an electric vehicle, as we were chatting about a little bit earlier, would be just so wonderful. Because you do hear so much more, and our ears are one of our most underrated senses. It's the sense that I learned to hone first when I moved to the bush. Drive a little bit faster and then switch off. Now we'd be listening, I suppose, to the alarm call of the rattling testicular, or an impala. James, do any species of what occur in the area? True species of quail, you mean other than button quails? Yes, 2. We get the harlequin quail and the common quail, which I know might be a strange thing for some of you. James obviously knows about quails, but a button quail is a different genus, if I'm not mistaken, from the genuine quails, if you like. I'll show you a picture now. We're just going to come to a halt here in the corner. I haven't seen any sign of old Shadsy. And I'll show you the quails and button quails. The for button quail, 168. So there are the button quails, and they come from a family called the Turnicidae. And there's the button quail, the curricane or currichane or currichani or various other ways of saying it, curricani, and those are the 2 button quails. Then the other quails, which although they look quite similar, and that's why they're called the same thing, are not. They're in a totally different family, the family Phocinidae, and they look the same. We get that common one, yes, and we do actually get the harlequin quail as well. So both of those we can find here, and normally that's in years of good rain. And I'll just play you the calls because it's quite interesting. The quails Ow, ow, ow! Savaged by a biting fly, which is now dead. Let me play them quickly for you, because the button quail sounds totally different from the other quails. Qua. This is the harlequin quail's call.
Okay, so we're actually sort of being engulfed by storms at the moment. We've got some big ones to the west, to the south, and now coming in from the north. And I said we don't often get rain from the north, but I can actually see the rain starting to come on that crest. That crest is probably about 4.5, 5 kilometers away. So we're slightly moving slightly faster than we were moving earlier. We don't want to be caught out in the rain with the bushwalk backpack. It is quite open, so we're slowly making our way back towards the area around quarantine. We've seen Inyala, we've seen Impala, but with this strong gusting wind, literally as you see them, and as they spot us, they just take off. So we'll take the elephant path. Quarantine's coming up, it's just to the east of us. Okay, well, we're going to walk down our elephant path. While we do that, it seems like Jamie has arrived at Cheetah Plains.
We have raced all the way to Cheetah Plains, and hopefully this weather decides to hold out on us and doesn't descend before we get to Tingana. So obviously I've stopped racing, and that's because I'm just waiting for my turn to go into the sighting. And we've got a little bit of a wait and some time to kill. Ooh. Some very deep rumbles of thunder. What have I got myself into? Just have a look at the clouds over there. Just look at this. Oh, it's coming quite fast. Okay. I take back what I said, Rebecca. I might need to dash for home. There's now some serious storm clouds. Oh dear. Rebecca says I must just sleep at Cheetah Plains Lodge tonight. Senzo and myself must just stay here. I don't know how they feel about that. Take a quick trip to the spa. question from Sean while we look at the dramatic weather and I make a decision that I have to make relatively quickly. Oh, just got whacked by the rain cover. Sean, you want to know if the ground hornbill is a genetic or an evolutionary failure in the same way that a cheetah is suspected to be. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Standing by. Just a 3 in a row now. Just waiting for you guys to be done. Okay, copy. Confirm. Can I make my way in? Okay, copy. Thanks very much, Mike. Apparently, Tingana is about to cross into a net. Because Mike is very kindly and Taxon have said they'll move out because he's about to cross. So we were talking about ground hornbills being an evolutionary failure. I don't think so. I think, look, it's a difficult thing to say. They are very slow breeders, and I kind of see exactly where you're going with that train of thought. The difference is there's been a lot, the same as with the cheetah, there's been a lot of human influence in terms of the loss of ground hornbill numbers. And there's been a use of them in traditional medicine. That's one of the reasons why their numbers have dropped. Oh, goodness, sorry. I'm still listening. I'm distracted by trying to just sort out which... Poaching for traditional medicine, loss of habitat in terms of the cheetahs. Sorry, I've forgotten how to talk and listen at the same time. Oh goodness, it's absolute chaos, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm going to concentrate on what's going on. So I'm going to send you ahead to James and I'll be back with you shortly, hopefully with Tingana.
Alright everyone, let me take that from Jamie. The question was, why are cheetah an evolutionary failure? Is that correct? Oh, are they an evolutionary failure like the cheetah? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to take an issue with that question. Cheetah are not an evolutionary failure. Cheetah are, well, I'm not sure exactly when their last common ancestor split from the rest of the cats, but it's got to be at least 500,000 years ago. That means, in fact, and I would go as far as saying 1 million years ago. That means, from an evolutionary point of view, they're much more successful than our own species, which is only about 150 to 200,000 years old. So they're not an evolutionary failure. They happen to find themselves now, however, in a vulnerable state, because conditions have changed from obviously when they were perhaps slightly more ubiquitous. The conditions have changed in that we have destroyed 90% of the habitat that they used to live in, and so in the current in their current form, they are struggling to survive under the conditions that have changed substantially since they were perhaps a slightly more successful species. So they're not an evolutionary failure. No species living can be considered an evolutionary failure, because it's to have got this far, it must have been successful at some stage. At some stage, environmental conditions must have allowed for it to be successful, because it's filled an ecological niche. So to describe a species as an evolutionary failure, I think would be incorrect. And therefore, to say, does the ground hornbill find itself in the same position? The answer is absolutely yes. Ecological conditions have changed substantially since they were a much more successful species, and we are probably the bringer of that change. Now, I've been reading about our distribution across the world as human beings. Now, we left Africa probably around 70,000 years ago. And by 45,000 years ago, we'd reached Australia, and by between 10 and 12,000 years ago, we'd reached Tierra del Fuego, which of course is the southern tip of South America. So we'd filled the entire Earth by 12,000 years ago. Now, the Earth before our spread was covered in an enormous number of different animals that simply do not occur anymore. We know this from the fossil records. We know that in Australia, for example, there were enormous marsupial lions. Can you believe it? Marsupial lions. There were giant sloths, giant tree sloths that stood some 6 meters tall, weighed some 8 tons, some of them. That was in the Americas. There were giant kangaroos, enormous rhino-sized I forget exactly what kind of animals there were all over Australia. Huge birds, the biggest bird that ever lived, the elephant bird, of course, occurred in Madagascar. But as soon as human beings landed in all of these places, these species disappeared. Saber-toothed cats disappeared as human beings arrived in all of these parts of the world. And so they were not evolutionary failures, those animals. They were evolutionary success stories that survived for millions of years before the advent of human beings wiped them out. So we as humans changed. We changed completely the sort of ecological conditions into which the animals had evolved. And that, therefore, resulted in a huge amount of extinction. Now, Mila, you're saying, what is an evolutionary failure? An evolutionary failure, I suppose, would be any animal that is not the fittest. It's the animal that fails to breed. That is an evolutionary failure. And so, for example, I tell you what I would describe as an evolutionary failure. Let's pretend that impala over there, or that one over there, it mates with a female and they produce an offspring, and there is some genetic mutation that doesn't result in death, but it gives the animal 5 legs, for example. Right, so it gives the impala 5 legs. Is there any advantage to having 5 legs in the current conditions that we find ourselves? No, there isn't. In fact, it would probably just be a hindrance to the impala, and so it would die out before it was able to breed properly, and it would not then pass on that genetic mutation. So that would be described as an evolutionary failure. So I'm going to continue with the story later, but much more interestingly, Jamie has managed to find her quarry.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, James, for answering that question. I'm sorry I had to focus on getting into the sighting, but in just a few moments, you're going to see the spotted head of, I assume, Tingana. I still haven't actually seen him properly. That's what everybody's told me. Well, that's who everybody told me it is. There we go. Hello, boy. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. How absolutely wonderful. And I'm really sorry, after all this, we're going to do one more repositioning. Oh, hello, there's another vehicle. So there we go. Absolutely wonderful, and definitely worth it, despite the weather and the threat of rain, it's all worth it when the big cats come out to play. Alright, I need to just do some chatting here, and I'll be with you very, very shortly. But while I do that, let's send you over to Brent, who has to start heading home.
This storm has become bigger and bigger, and it's sort of starting to leer down over us, and there's been a lot of lightning, so we're going to put our tail between our legs. Oh, there's a bit of it. I don't know if you got that, Vim. So there's quite a lot of lightning in there. We're going to put our tail between our legs and dash for home. Oh, there we go. So most sheet lightning, no lightning heading towards the ground yet, but we don't want to give them an antenna to aim at. So it's been wonderful having you on Bushwalk with us. Unfortunately, we couldn't find Shadow. Hopefully, James will have some luck later on the safari, and great that Jamie's caught up with Tingana. Now, we'll try and get you a few more flashes of lightning before we say bonne nuit. Whoa, there's a big one. Okay, that's a big enough one that I think it's time for us to start heading home. So thanks again, and we'll see you bright and early for the sunrise safari.
And with Bushwalk returning to the safety of camp, we might have to do the same in the not too distant future. So we're only going to get, unfortunately, to spend a very short time with Tingana. You can hear the thunder, maybe you can't. I can hear the thunder rumbling. And it's starting to get closer and closer, so we can't spend too long here. But definitely worth the rush all the way to Cheetah Plains so that we could spend a little bit of time with him. It looks to me like Tingana. I still haven't seen his face properly, but it certainly looks like him. And just judging by the size as well, absolutely massively powerful head and shoulders. Interestingly enough, I was chatting to one of the other guides who said that they feel as though Tingana's just ballooned in size, that he's just got so much larger over the last few weeks. I don't quite know what that would have been. Perhaps he's just eating well. Perhaps he's been enjoying a couple of very good meals. Either way, he has walked so far. From the start of our sunrise safari, before the Bushwalk backpack stopped working, we tracked him all the way through Djuma, all the way along the northern boundary, and now into Cheetah Plains. That is probably a distance of around about, I don't know, give or take 10 miles. He has marched. I have absolutely no idea why, presumably patrolling his territory, but it's astounding that he's done it all in one go. How's it, Steph? How are you? Good, thanks. Okay. And welcome to Cedar Point. Cedar Point, no, Tingana's not Karula's son. As much as this entire area is dotted with Karula's offspring, Tingana is not one of them. He is the dominant male leopard of this particular area and most of our Traverse area, and he's the most likely father of Karula's cubs. So he is roughly, how old is he now? 10. He must be about 10 years old now, and he is absolutely massive. He came in when he initially moved into this area as the dominant male. He was given the name Tingana because he was actually very shy. And since then, he has become more and more comfortable around vehicles to the point that we can sit with him in the way that we are doing now. And he's completely relaxed with our presence. In fact, of all of our leopards, I would say that Tingana is the most relaxed around the vehicles. Tingana and Hosana and Shungile are the leopards that are the most comfortable with us. So no, he is not Karula's son. He is Karula's paramour. Would that be a suitable description of him? Either way, he has mated with Karula in the past and probably sired her cubs, potentially sired Tundi's cub, Tamba, as well as Shadow's new little cub as well. He has, in a way, also filled the area with his progeny. Karula's son, Quarantine, often spends a lot of time around this area, although apparently he's recently been chased around a little bit. So I'm not quite sure where he's ended up. He's often been on cheetah plains. And this is really about as far east as Tingana will go. You can never have absolutes with leopards, but this is pretty much the furthest east that his territory extends, and we don't often see him beyond this point. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen him this far east. Oh, there's a hyena. Hello, hyena. There's a hyena. Oh, it's just disappeared behind the vehicle. Hold on, it might come around in front now. It's only the second hyena I've ever seen on cheetah plains. There, he's seen it. You can stay on the leopard for now. I'll tell you when the hyena comes back. Oh, it looks like quite a young hyena. I don't think it's going to be tangling with Mr. T. Not if it values its physical entirety. Where has it gone? It might walk around in front. He's not at all bothered. Now, sometimes hyenas will gather together and chase a leopard up a tree, but Tingana, being the massive male leopard that he is, he could... There we go. Here it comes. Here comes the hyena. You got it. Yeah, let's go on to the hyena. Go wide. Okay, there's the hyena. He's going to pop through. Alright, now go wide, just in case he does decide to chase him. There we go. Look at this. Look at the proximity of these two. Does this hyena realize how close he is? Must do. It's not uncommon to see hyenas and leopards close together. And generally speaking, they ignore each other. Just stay wide, Senzo, because his ears are flat. Keep him in shot. There we go. Just a warning growl from Tingana. Here we go. A brief interaction between our two largest spotted predators. A hyena and this big male leopard, very closely matched, but that hyena wasn't foolish enough to take on Tingana today. And I don't know if you could hear that deep grr that he gave, and a snarl, and a little bit of a jump forward. That was awesome. Not often you see them fighting, though. It's unusual. Neither of them really want to injure themselves or run the risk of injury. So chances are most of the time when they come into proximity like that, they look at each other, glance at each other, and then wander away. And that hyena knew that he was here and was just coming to have a look and see whether or not he had a kill worth attempting to steal. Very cool. Guys, we've got to go. Rebecca, I don't know if I still have comms or not. Do I? I do have comms. Marvellous. I've got to go, everybody. I've got to get home, otherwise we're going to get caught in the storm. So while we race off home, let's send you back over to James.
Sorry. I nearly went into the lodge by mistake. Before we too sort of head closer to home, before the lightning strikes us down, is get you a view of this rather spectacular lightning from the top of the Arathusa Dam wall, because I think it will be quite spectacular. So that's why we're going down this way. I think I finished my evolution story. If I didn't, please feel free to send through a question about it. To send through a question about it. And we need some lights now. Hello, somebody called Cedar Parks. Is it Cedar Parks? No, not Cedar Parks. Cedar Parks? Cedar Point. Hello, Cedar Point. Cedar Point, you want to know how dangerous storms are in South Africa. Well, it really does depend where you are. In this area, I wouldn't describe them as particularly dangerous. Up on the Highveld or the highlands of South Africa, so from the Drakensberg Mountains up to Dullstroom and Belfast and down into Johannesburg, they can be pretty violent. And you get a huge amount of hail and lightning. So yes, they can be quite dangerous there. But down here, well, I mean, I'm saying this, I don't think they're going to be particularly dangerous. All right, we're going to look pretty much over the top of my head there, and that seems to be where the storm front is. And there, oh gosh, this roof really is a nightmare, isn't it? I wonder if I can't park at a better angle for us. I don't think that I can, unless, I'll tell you what I'll do. Wait, Craig, let me just drive slightly off the edge of the damn wall here, which will angle us like that. How's that? There we go. Better? No. If we point the camera out over there, yes, you see, look, we've lost the roof. Alright, we're back there. We just had to switch one or two things in the final control. So here we are now waiting for some lightning to occur. I still think I'm probably not quite at the right angle, but let's just sit here for a little while. This is going to be a good place to watch it from. We're just not looking at the storm front, and of course the storm front is the most likely place for there to be lightning, because that's where it is charging itself. That animal dashing, Rebecca, was an impala. There are some nyala here as well as... Oh, my goodness gracious. Did you see that, Craig? Did you miss it? It was terrifying. It was terrifying, Craig. I tell you, it was terrifying. I can just hear the thunder going as well. See if we can't get a picture of it. You know, of course, that's illegal. So I'm not going to really try and get a picture. I am really going to try and get a picture. I find lightning rather fascinating. I think we all do, although, of course, it is rather terrifying. And now all the birds have gone silent in anticipation, almost, I think, of what is sure to be, or what could be, quite a big storm. And so there's just one or two little blacksmith lapwings calling, one or two franklins as they disappear to hide in amongst the bushes. And maybe we can have a look at some of the animals. Have you had any lightning there, Craig? I'm watching the other side. Let's go and have a look at the animals there. No, we have had some lightning. Oh, that's good. There are some nyala. They are completely unaffected. Well, the one on the right is nyala. The rest are impala. So I think maybe that male nyala has got a slight identity crisis. And as it gets dark, of course, these animals like to move towards the lodge because, well, I think the predators do slightly avoid the lodges if they can. Oh, there's such a feeling of expectation at a time like, yo, that was a good one. Did you see that? No. We'll just sit here for another minute and then we'll move off. Jamie, of course, has got to move quite quickly to get home, because she's a long way out. I'm glad we saw Tingana. Do you say how will the storms affect the hippo? I don't think they'll affect them at all, you know. I think that they'll be relatively okay with any storms. They might stay in the water, I suppose, because the wind will make them a little bit more vulnerable. So it's quite possible that they would stay in the water as opposed to go out if the storm was at night time, which often they are sort of around this time of the year. So perhaps They'd stay in the water because they felt a little bit more vulnerable. But I guess then, yeah, I mean, that would be the only thing I would say I would suspect that they might try and do. But otherwise, I wouldn't imagine hugely. Every so often you do find an animal that has been struck by lightning. But of course we do not want to increase the chances of that. So I've got to tell you, if this lightning gets too much worse, we're going to head for home. In fact, we're going to head towards home fairly shortly. Marissa, you were wondering about how many thunderstorms we get and if we get a lot of them. Marissa, we do get quite a few thunderstorms in this area. That's where most of the rain falls. I mean, some of it falls as frontal rain, but a lot of it comes as these big, sudden thunderstorms, especially if there's a system off the Mozambican coast, some sort of cyclone. And that's often what we'll get. But that was quite something. We don't get them anything like as frequently though as they do on the highlands. So in the Highveld around Johannesburg and Belfast and Dullstroom and those areas which are much higher up, there tend to be much more severe storms, especially lightning storms, and Johannesburg lightning and thunderstorms. I remember growing up with them as a child and loving lying safe in my bed at night and listening to the storms, and then going to live in Cape Town where they don't have them at all. They've just got sort of 3 months of rain every year. In just sodding or soaking sodding rain, and it would come through for months at a time with no thunderstorms. And I remember being so depressed by it because there was just no and so I quite like storms, but that's because I grew up with them. Alright, I think we need to start moving towards home now. We might have to be, do we have to be stationary? No, we don't. I think we can carry on. Should be right. All right there, Craig. You're from Durban. How many storms there? Many? Quite a few in Durban. Probably not as much as on the Highveld. Jacqueline, you're saying, do we ever get hail? Seldom, but when it comes, it can be quite terrifying. There was a dreadful story. Well, I mean, it's not that dreadful, but it is quite scary. At Londolozi a little while back, I think it was about 3 years ago, there were some guests out on drive, and they watched a storm coming in like this, and so they kind of moved towards the camp, expecting, well, maybe it might rain, but that's okay, and we'll get back to camp, it'll be fine. And suddenly this hailstorm broke with, I mean, golf ball sized hailstones coming out of the sky onto these open vehicles, and there were 8 or 9 game drives out, and what they had to do was some thought quickly and got their guests out of the car and under the vehicles. Some were sitting in line sightings, so they couldn't do that. They had to try and get their guests underneath the seats and try and put them under the ponchos as best they could. But it must have been absolutely terrifying, because something falling at terminal velocity like a golf ball if it as best they could. But it must have been absolutely terrifying, because something falling at terminal velocity like a golf ball if it hits you plumb on the head, it can kill you. So that was terrifying, but very unusual. Doesn't happen here often, I say. Again, needing to touch wood, because a golf ball sized hailstone will rip through this canvas roof that we've got in seconds. So hopefully that won't happen. We'll turn the lights on again, and probably time for a spotlight. Oh no, hang on. Lots of people coming through the bush here. No, they're hiding from us, that's good. Let's carry on. So we shall start to look for some night creatures. That is not a night creature, that is a Mrs. Nyala. Ooh, and a little baby Nyala. I don't suppose our infrared light is on, is it? No, not yet. It will be at some stage. There they go, little Nyalas. We just have to wait for Jamie to find some signal first. You see the Nyalas? They're those things running across the road. I'm just going to wait for them all to cross, everyone. I'll just give you a little bit of light on them. Hello. Sorry to disturb. As you were, keep going. Come on. Yes, we'll wait, but you must hurry up. Go on. Yes, all of you. Come on. Move. That's it. Thank you so much. Good. On we go. Rest of the lights on. Now we're now heading sort of towards the storm. I'm not very worried about it though, because Jamie is coming from that direction, and unless it's really starting to hit her now, I know that coming from this direction will be fine. It would still be quite nice to see Shadow out on patrol on a stormy night like this. I'm sure Brent is happy that he's not had to go to the tent just yet. Of course, we have got about half an hour drive left, so he might still have to go off to the tent. Ha 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 ha. And bash his head on all the lights. Ooh. Rebecca confirmed Jamie is in fact in the rain. No, nothing. So I think Jamie's all right. I think let's go up this way. I'm going to drive a little bit faster. Just so that we can get out of it in case we have some rain. And maybe we'll get a rain chameleon or something like that over the course of the next 20 minutes or so. I'm hoping that my explanation of evolutionary failure was successfully answered. Right, Jamie's managed to find herself no rain and some signals. Let's go and find out what's happening with her.
I have fled the storm and we've made it back onto Djuma. And I apologize, I haven't... Ooh, we appear to be rolling. I haven't had a chance yet to plug my spotlight in, so I just want to do that quickly. I was so busy racing away from the storm that I haven't had a chance to do it, and we needed to do some spotlighting repairs. Oh, dearie me. Trying to find a light source so I can get down there and plug it in. We've got lights, so it's not a disaster if it doesn't work, but let's test and see whether or not Brent's soldering mission has actually paid off. Sorry, hold on a moment. We can look at the lightning while I attempt to do this. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Where on earth is this light socket? Am I going completely mad? Completely mad, that's why.
Oh, hello everybody. We're just putting on the infrared light at the moment. So we're just waiting for that to be done, and then we will continue on our merry way. Not much else I can tell you. Let's look around here, see if there's anything around. Not sure why Jamie crash cut. I suspect a difficult area, perhaps. Foxglove. There's a foxglove over there. Alright, I think Jamie's got her spotlight sorted. She should be fine now.
I've got my spotlight sorted. Sorry about that, everybody. Sometimes the button on a camera just presses itself magically by mistake. That's happened to us before once, where I think it was Brian who was on camera. I don't know, I think it might have been with Brent. And obviously we don't show rhino, but they are in the Sabi Sand, in the Great Kruger area, so we do record footage of them when we do see them. And the playback on the camera started playing clips on that memory card of rhino, and everybody was terribly up in arms that we were showing rhino, and we didn't mean to. It was just a playback option on the camera that from a previously recorded clip. But there was much confusion when that occurred. I can't remember who was in final control, but it was very, very funny. Okay, panic over. We've escaped the massive storm cloud that's rolling in from the east, and we're back on Djuma once again. That hyena Tingana action was truly fascinating and epic to watch. You just see the, not quite truce, it's definitely not a truce, but the understanding that those two predators have in terms of how they're going to go about things and interacting with each other. And Tingana giving that brief snarl just to show that hyena not to come any closer. But you could see he wasn't that bothered. He didn't get up. He didn't move. He just... and then he was done. Truly epic to watch. It's less fun when that happens to you on foot. That is quite a scary thing when a leopard does that to you, if you happen to bump into them a little bit too close and you didn't realize they were there. Just a little casual reminder of just how powerful they are, just how fast they are as well. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to speed through this dip. Unfortunately, it is unavoidable. I'll just have to go through it very, very quickly. So hold on, we might get some picture breakup. Can't go too fast, there's bumps. I'll throw Senzo off and he'll be very upset. Okay, I'm actually going to scoot through this area quickly. Should be okay. Let's go up here. Oopsie. Let's not go up there. Sorry, everybody. Hello. Let's not interrupt some poor people's drink stop. I'll send you over to James whilst I navigate this bad signal patch.
We have our infrared lights now working, so if we see any creatures of the day or the night, we can view. We have our infrared lights now working, so if we see any creatures of the day or the night, we can view them. Elephants are best in the dark, I find. Well, leopards and lions are probably the best in the dark, but elephants are great fun as well. We're still just sort of gently making our way out of Arathusa back towards Djuma on a road that, well, would seem to have experienced an earthquake, or certainly a flood. Right, here we go, down into the depths. See what we have down here. But you're wondering about meteorites and whether we experienced one here in the depths here. Mohammed, you're wondering about meteorites and whether we have ever experienced one here. I'm assuming you mean one that has actually hit the ground, which I think, well, by definition, it must have hit the ground if it was a meteorite. And the answer is, I'm sure in prehistory there must have been, but no, not while any of us have been here, I don't think, and indeed not probably while any of the mammals in this area have been alive. There is an enormous meteorite crater just near Pretoria, which is quite close to, well, Pretoria is quite close to Johannesburg, so on the Highveld again, there's an enormous meteorite crater from a long time ago, and then, I'm not sure how long ago, probably about 2 million years I think it was, and then of course there's an even bigger one called, its name has now escaped me, what's it called? Come on, Batman. What's it called? It's a massive thing in South Africa that could actually even have been the one that wiped the dinosaurs out. I can't believe I've forgotten its name. Anyway, it's not anywhere near here. I think it's up in the northern Free State or Northern Cape. But its name escapes me. Yes, Vredefort. Is that it? Vredefort? Maybe that's what it is. getting that from the final control, so it could easily be that. But not around here, thankfully. And in fact, this area, Mohammed, has had very little in the way of tectonic activity or volcanic upheaval or, impacts from the sky and that sort of thing. And that means that the soil is very ancient, it's very stable, and what it means is that we've got a situation where the soil is very old, and so it's quite nutrient poor. All right, and find out where she is.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. It seems as though our tiny, tiny little baby scrub hare has hopped away, and I didn't really want to spend too long with the spotlight on it just because it is such a baby scrub hare. It was probably only about this big. And whoops, oh goodness, one hand driving with the spotlight. And it was just a little bit too young and all on its own. I don't know where the adults were. So I just decided I would not try and relocate it once it had hopped away. But it was terribly, terribly sweet. And of course, scrub hares born completely precocial. One of the big difference between rabbits and hares in general, in terms of the lagomorph family, rabbits are altricial. So in other words, they're born blind and helpless and very, very small and underdeveloped. Whereas hares, because they don't actually burrow down or hide their babies away, they're born pretty much ready to run from day one, like baby wildebeest or baby impala. It'll be absolutely fine hopping about all on its own. And it's probably already very close to independence, even though I'm not quite sure exactly when scrub hares become independent from their parents, but it's probably a very early age. Oh dear. Oh well, let's see what else we can find. Perhaps we can test Senzo on a bush baby. He's been doing so well. And welcome to Jade as we head into the evening. Jade, there's Nal. Oh no. There we go. There you go, Jade. There's Nal for you. Can you see it there? It's right in the middle of my spotlight. There we go. Well done, Senzo. Looks like a pearl spotted, judging by those two eyes on the back of its head. So there you go, a pearl spotted owlet. What a perfect timing that was. Because Jade's question was, have we had any owl sightings? And what types of owls do we get out here? Well, that was beautifully timed, little pearl spotted owlet. Yes, I'm talking to you. Oh, you look so angry. They always look so angry. So disgruntled with life. And then you see the two spots on the back of its head, obviously, presumably meant to look like eyes, so that it is intimidating to something that might try and attack it. And just to give you a sense of scale, that little owlet is probably not much bigger than my hand. So it's very, very small. And that, along with the Scops owl and the African barred owlet and the white-faced Scops owl, or the southern white-faced owl, those are the little owls that we get out here, tiny little crepuscular owls. In other words, they're active early in the morning and late and sort of early in the evening as well, but generally not right in the middle of the night. And then our slightly larger owls, we generally see Verreaux's eagle owls, which are absolutely massive and could easily eat a little owl like this for dinner, or a guinea fowl or anything like that, and spotted eagle owls. And before I saw this little pearl spotted owl, I was about to say to Jade that we actually had owl tracks of a spotted eagle owl on the road this morning on bushwalk. It was one of the quizzes that I asked. That is so cute. I love pearl spotted owls. Okay, that wasn't what I was looking to inspire, but anyway, that's what we got. I was hoping it was going to call, it defecated instead. That's what it thinks of my pearl-spotted owlet impression. obviously wasn't very good. Or perhaps it was marvelous, and that is just an owl's way of showing appreciation. I'm just going to stop for 1 second. Right, I'm going to search for pictures of owls to show Jade while I do. Let's go and see whether or not James has managed to find his way out of Arethusa.
I have actually just about found my way out, but I will tell you that I got lost. And I ended up heading due west by mistake, and that is because I'm going to claim that the storm disorientated me completely. I'm now in the right place, however. We are on to the triple M break, as it were. There is lightning splashing all over the place, and shortly we're going to turn right onto Djuma. I just need to try and not blind this poor person coming along the road. Unfortunately, the lights on this car are either bright or nothing. So this person is just going to have to, well, put up with it, as it were. Sorry, old boy. Old buddy, old pal. You shouldn't actually really be. Ooh, I need to turn here. There we go. I think that's actually Opar, our mechanic. Alright, here we go. I have found we have seen some bronze-wing coursers, which obviously many of you have seen before. We've seen one scrub hare, which has now disappeared, and we're now heading pretty much for home. I'm very pleased that Jamie managed to find you an owl. I saw one owl in India. It was called a brown fish owl. They have a number of different kinds of fish-eating owls there. Not just the one like we have here. Well, this would be a very good place for a lion to lurk, and if I didn't know that all the lions were not here, well, then I'd expect to see one. Arkansas John, something about light and owls' ability to hunt. Right, you say, does it affect their ability to hunt? And I suspect, Arkansas John, that yes, temporarily it must do. I mean, if you shine a light this bright directly into an animal's face, it will most certainly start to see, bright lights like we do. It'll just take a little while for the pupils to readjust to the dark. So were you to shine on it as it flew over the top, then yes, I think it probably would be something of a difficulty for the owl. But, if it's just sitting and waiting, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, because it'll affect it temporarily, and then it'll be fine. All right, let's head back across to Jamie. She's going to tell you a bit more about owls. Thank you very much for joining us on our drive today. Hopefully we'll have a more cat-rich day tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you at 6 o'clock. Bye-bye.
I am going to tell you a little bit more about the various owls just very quickly, because I did promise that I would. So this is the barn owl, and I haven't seen one here yet, but I have heard them. It's a very high-pitched shrieking sound. That is a bird that was responsible for probably the biggest fright I've ever had in my life when I was exploring an abandoned farmhouse once, and it came flying out of the roof. I'm not sure which of us got a bigger fright, but I'm pretty sure it was me, and I'm pretty sure it's the girliest scream I have ever emitted. So that is a barn owl. Let's go quickly. I know we're getting to the end of the sunset safari. This is a wood owl, an African wood owl. Haven't seen one here. I've heard that they have been heard, if that makes any sense. So they are around. And then let me just quickly turn the page. There we go. So this is the Verreaux's eagle owl. Absolutely massive, up to around about 66 centimeters in height. So that is the Verreaux's giant eagle owl. We won't see Pell's fishing owl here, unfortunately, so we won't count that. And then one more page turn quickly. Lots of owls. Where's the one I'm looking for? This is the one I'm looking for. Spotted eagle owl. That's probably the most common to see, along with the little ones. And then one more page turn. One more page turn. And then there's our little owls. Scops owl and Leo. just quickly while we look at our scops owl, this is the scops owl, and then one more page turn. You want to know how big an owl's eye... Oh, sorry about the glare. Sorry about the glare. There we go. Southern white-faced scops owl. Leo, you want to know how big their eyes are in comparison to their head? Enormous. This is the owl we were looking at earlier, the pearl-spotted owl. See the dark spots behind the head? So their eyes and their eye sockets are actually larger than their brains in certain species of owl. So absolutely massive. This is the little barred owl. And I think that is that. A summary of the various owl species that we see out here. These are actually owlets, which is basically just a small owl. Okay. Whew, that was a very rapid picture show, and I actually had more time than I realized I did. But there you go. So Leo, sorry, I didn't actually properly answer your question because I was rushing through the pages of the book. Their eyes are... It's not just the eye that you can see, it's the massive socket that sits behind in their skulls and the nerve pathways that obviously travel through from the retina back into the brain. That's what gives them that amazing ability to see in the dark and make use of very, very little ambient light. And then their hearing as well is very important because they've got offset ears. So one is higher than the other, which means they can actually pinpoint far more precisely exactly where a sound is coming from. Couple that with the ability to turn their head 270 degrees around, so basically turn around and look back over their shoulder, and you've got a bird that is really very well adapted for moving around at night and in darkness. I'm very glad that we got to see an owl. It was very appropriate for the end of our sunset safari and for Jade's question. I hope that answers your question, Jade. Hopefully, during the course of our live safaris, we'll be able to show you some more beautiful birds of the evening. Just grabbing a spider web. I'm not doing an interpretive dance. Right, on that note, it is a time for us to do our final goodbyes and our thank yous. So thank you to Senzo. I think you'll all agree he's done amazing work with us so far. He's only been here a few days, and what a spectacular job he's been doing. And to Rebecca and to Alice in final control. And, of course, to James, Brent, Craig and Viam, our wonderful cameraman as well. Most importantly, a big thank you to all of you for joining us. It just wouldn't be the same without you. Stay tuned for the sunrise safari tomorrow. Who knows, Queen Karula might make an appearance, Shadow might turn up again. We just don't know what to expect. I'm excited and I'm sure you are too. Bye-bye, everybody.